4 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Maggie and Perloff on the Infinity Sports Network.
Welcome in, Maggie and Perloff Show. There are some changes today. Maggie's still on vacation EJ Stewart, the executive producer, was sitting in the big chair yesterday, but he is out today. That is a long and interesting story that I don't know if you want to know. But Andrew Bogusch is in. We're so excited. Bogusch is in, and we have a guest star, Bogusch. Do you see who's running the board right now?
I can't even bring myself to look to my right because I will be overwhelmed with emotion. I would never wish anything bad on EJ, but this bad thing that happened to EJ has given us a gift this morning.
Yeah.
There's no other way about it.
Forget the bugs.
What?
Pete Bellotti is in the chair today. Now, if you don't know our show, Pete used to be part of our show, and Maggie and I would sit here and watch Bogusch and Pete argue like an old married couple. Fair to say, Pete?
Yes, that's very fair.
But Pete is now, of course, the executive producer of the overnight show. Long story, long growth story. EJ not feeling well, and Pete is in. So we're going to have some fun today. But let's start with Giannis, Bogusch. I'm over it. I'm over the entire NBA. This passive aggressiveness and these stars saying, I'm going to sit back and wait and see if they can build a contender around me and then decide if I want to stay or go. I know this has been the storyline in the NBA for 8 years or whatever, but Giannis's passive aggressiveness is taken to a new level. So yesterday, the Bucks cut Damian Lillard. They're going to stretch out his contract and sign Miles Turner. My initial reaction, like every NBA story, you have an initial reaction. Oh, that's good. Now, Damian Lillard's not going to play next year probably because of an Achilles injury. And Miles Turner is not quite an all-star level, but a very productive center. Was just in Game 7 of the Finals. Gives the Bucks a chance in the weak Eastern Conference. But then Giannis reacts two things. One, there's a report from Chris Haynes, Yahoo Sports, that Giannis's camp is not happy about this, the way this went down. And take it for what it's worth. Chris Haynes, either his wife is related to Giannis or he's related to Giannis's wife. There's some family connection, so you would think that Chris Haynes knows what he's talking about. And then take that for what it's worth. But then Giannis tweets out a picture of him smoking a cigar with a stuffed animal. It says Mood 100 with a caption, I don't know what's going on right now, comma, man. That is passive aggressive, Andrew Bogusch.
I don't know if it's passive aggressive. I don't know what it means. I honestly don't. You're over this. I'm fascinated by like the 19 different levels of all of these moves. Like the Bucks did this for Miles Turner. They did
Miles Turner's
for Miles
good.
Turner. But as far as Giannis goes, if you want to accept it at face value, you can. I think it's just as plausible that Giannis felt like he had to tweet that to make it seem like he's confused and maybe a little disgruntled that his buddy Dame is on his way to town. So we think that he and Dame are cool, that we think that he's a good teammate, that we think he's upset. Maybe he is, but also maybe he isn't. Maybe this is just good PR from the Giannis side of things.
Yeah. No, you're right. Like, why would I call this passive aggressive or confusing? You're talking about triple mind games. What are you?
Yeah.
What? This isn't Love Island USA, the popular reality show.
Love Island, Wisconsin. Let's go.
6:03, and we got a Love Island reference.
Yeah.
Huh?
Listen, I have a 14-year-old at home who is obsessed, and I think all of America is starting to get obsessed with the show on Peacock. But that's what the NBA is now. It's like everyone's playing mind games.
Are you
like
new?
He's sending out? Well, I mean, come on.
Every
This is
tweet.
Milwaukee. People should just want a team that's good and it's simple, and we eat cheese and we watch the Bucks and we have that big outdoor party when they're in the playoffs.
Right.
Like, why are we playing mind games
Theater
like it's
country.
Love Island USA?
Because that's what everybody does. Of course there's mind games. The Bucks are playing mind games. Damian Lillard's playing mind games.
There's no mind games. Damian Lillard tore his Achilles. He had surgery on May 2nd. He's not playing next year. And the reports that ESPN said that he might be back by the All-Star game. That sounds like propaganda. If he plays, he's not going to be good. So why would Giannis even fake being upset about this? There was no Damian Lillard next year. Now at least you have another good player. If you want to stay in Milwaukee, this is a good thing. My theory is he wants an excuse to get out of Milwaukee, and he's going to use this as an excuse.
Okay, and that's a mind game.
Yeah, I know. I don't
So
like it.
there's-
I don't like it. I've done this in breakups before where I want to get out of a relationship.
Stop
so I
pretending
find
you're other girlfriends. You're just like me. One quality woman liked you, and you held on for dear life.
Oh, folks, I'm not like you at all. I've dated many. I am a heartbreaker.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Mark
You
that
guys
down.
you guys just don't get it. You're too cynical. Yes, I'm a romantic, and I had to let down a lot of women easy.
Sounds like you're toxic as well.
Yeah.
Well, I was actually for a long time. But I probably played mind games like Giannis. I was the Giannis of the Lower East Side New York City dating scene.
That's what they call
Very
you.
toxic.
Yeah. Well, at least I was passive aggressive like Giannis. Will you give me that? But come on, why can't we just keep this simple? And why do NBA players now? I'm over it. Why can't you just be good and try and win a championship on your own? Why do you have to have all the right pieces around you? I was watching a lot of Hardwood Classics, NBA. Don't make any dirty jokes.
No, just
All right, I
was
saw
gonna laugh again
Manny.
at you
I saw
living in the
Manny.
past.
A tired people lot. He probably went there too. I do watch a lot of
was
Hardwood
going there.
Classics, which is not the story of Andrew Perloff dating in the Lower East Side of New York. It's actual classic NBA games from
softwood.
from the 90s. I was watching the 90s. Can you imagine? I saw a report the other day. Michael Jordan didn't want his GM to get other good players so he could prove he could do it on his own.
I don't think that's true. I mean, again, all
Oh,
of this is
come on. Of course it's true.
No, it's not. This is, I have to go big picture for a second. This entire argument has always driven me crazy. In our regular situations, all of us who sit here and complain about things, we all do the same stuff.
Yeah.
We all want our company to be better. We're jealous of what somebody else's company does or doesn't do, or they have this perk and we don't have that.
We're not talking about
Where's that? But everybody wants the best possible job.
No.
Everyone
No,
in our
no,
industry
no.
wants to work. Nobody says, you know what? I'm going to stay in Kenosha because I want to stay unknown.
Kenosha's a nice place. Don't do
No.
disparage
This is
Kenosha.
it. He's like Sophie Cunningham, WNBA,
No.
ripping Midwestern
I'm
towns
just
for
picking
no
a
reason.
random
We'll get
city.
into that later.
If CBS National comes calling, or if we come calling, most people are going to go, yeah, I want to go national. I want to be big time.
No.
New York wants me. LA wants me. You know what? I'm going to stay here in East Fort Worth, Texas.
Stop. Why are you ripping America, Bogus?
Because
What are we doing? First of all, we have a brand to protect
the idea
here.
that NBA players, that athletes should make decisions about their workplace and their job that we don't do in real life. We're hypocrites.
Listen, we're the Maggie and Perloff show. You're talking about other companies. The analogy would be, hey, we want good people around us, but we don't want people who are better than us, right? Like you, that's the general rule at work. Like you want Billy down the hall to be good, but not better than you.
Okay, so now I have heard of other radio hosts in other places that prefer to have who they've deemed to be lesser talents fill in for them,
Make
like
them
when they're
look
on
better.
vacation. So you're like, oh man, thank God Pete Pilotti's back. So yes, but in general, everybody wants to go to the next level. Everybody wants to get in a promotion, get a better time slot. They want to go from local to national. They want to go from the number 3 company in their industry to the number 1 company. But when an athlete does that, why? How come? Make it harder. You should make this harder. Stay where we have no support or a crappy head coach or a stupid GM. You should stay there and try to win, even though you've tried for 8 or 9 years and it didn't work. God forbid you want to go to a better team with good teammates.
Yeah, I mean, they're called competitors, something apparently you are not. You want to be gifted this easy path to stardom.
I want to be rewarded for my hard work in the best possible way. And sitting and banging your head against the wall.
Dude won a title in Milwaukee. He won an NBA title. What is it? First of all, we've also proven that small markets are fine for stardom in the NBA.
Yeah.
Shai Gilgeous-Alexander just signed a $70 million a year contract in Oklahoma City.
Sure.
What's it?
Oh,
He's got
baby.
no problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Giannis is also allowed to change his mind and want to go somewhere else.
Okay, fine. Then just say it. Stop playing these games with these cryptic tweets.
I'm fine. I'm fine with that as well. But like yesterday was about, I don't know. Was it about him trying to? Because I can believe in a lot of the conspiracy theories around this. Like, did the Bucks decide to blow this up? Like, did the Bucks do this to anger him, to then trade him? Like, did they trigger all of this? But if they did, why is Miles Turner there? They could have just gone, hey, we don't, Dame's whatever. This was apparently there are people in Milwaukee reporting that they might have broken up this summer anyway. Achilles or not, shy of a surprising title just because it doesn't seem to work well enough on the court. Dame seems to be unhappy so far away from his family. He's got some personal stuff that he's been working through the last couple of years that they might have found a way to go their separate ways this summer anyway. So they could have, if they just wanted to do a full reset, they could have done that. They could have waived him, traded him, whatever, angered Giannis and then go, all right, I guess we got to trade Giannis now, and they could have started over. But they paid $107 million for Miles Turner.
Which is nothing in the NBA.
Which makes it seem like they want to keep Giannis. But then why, if Giannis is unhappy, why didn't they run all of this by Giannis if they wanted to keep him?
Well, apparently, according to reports, they didn't run it by anybody. Damian Lillard didn't even know. He read it in the news like we did.
Right, but I thought Shams or ESPN said that Giannis was okay with Miles Turner. And he had to know that being okay with Miles Turner meant no Damian Lillard.
Is anybody here old enough to remember when you were a kid and there was a star on your team, you rooted for him, and you bought his jersey, and he stuck around and tried to win a title with your team? Pete Bellotti, I know you remember these days.
Because when we were kids, there was no NBA free agency.
Yeah, well, I think there technically was.
And it was nothing like it is now. It was not the free movement of now. But that's the point when everybody who complained about this generation of players changing teams, the guys of Barkley, Jordan, and backwards, they didn't have the ability to do this. So for them to go, I wouldn't have done that is an unfair sentence because they didn't have the ability to change teams like players do now.
Do you see Josh Allen in Buffalo saying, hey, I got to look around and see what you do to the depth chart and decide if I'm going to stick around? Do you see that?
You don't think that they had that conversation?
Show me a quarterback who's done that.
All of them.
Not one. Who's left?
They've done it privately, I bet.
Yeah, they want a better team, but they're not going to leave. They just don't leave because the NFL is different.
You think that, right.
Show me, name one.
You think that all of these guys sign these huge contracts not understanding what their teams want to do in the next 3 to 5 years?
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah, I don't.
I don't think Josh Allen's personally, I do not think Josh Allen's leaving. Maggie, who's a huge Bills fan, is threatened by it because it just doesn't happen in the NFL. Quarterbacks are loyal. What's that?
That was Maggie, blah, blah, blah. Yeah.
But also, Maggie was on vacation, chiming in from outer space there.
Quarterbacks don't leave the NFL, partly because of franchise tags and the structure of how contracts work.
And they're competitors. They're not these passive-aggressive tweeters who decide, like, I'm going to send out a message to confuse Andrew Bogusch in the morning. So I don't even know what
Lamar Jackson has sent out some confusing tweets, no?
Well, yeah, that's true.
Okay.
But Lamar Jackson is an unusual contract negotiator.
No, and anyway, I think you're giving them way too much credit. They all are just blind. Like, I'm going to stay here and win no matter what. Sign me for $300 million. Like,
yes.
They all know what their team, in theory, is going to do.
Then what the heck have the Bills done for Josh Allen in reality? Drafted Dalton Kincaid?
Yeah.
So what?
They're going to pay James Cook.
Yes.
To make Josh Allen happy.
First of all, have they paid James Cook?
No, they're going to.
Everybody else has already been paid. They're clearly slow playing that one.
Yeah, because they want to get the better deal for them, but I'm sure they know that Josh Allen wants James Cook.
The Bills did trade forward to Stephon Diggs. Didn't work, but, I mean, they tried.
Oh, it did when they first did it.
Yeah, but, I mean, he's no longer on the Bills.
Oh, but I think that was
lead to a championship. But, I mean, again, they tried. They tried to get Josh Allen a top target in Stephon Diggs.
But Josh Allen is not sending out passive-aggressive tweets. That's my issue. I think the big picture issue is it's an old one with the NBA. Should these players so actively be trying to force their way out of? I think you mentioned market size. I think that there's certain markets players don't want to be in, and they want a contender just handed to them. Old school guys like me, just take any 4 guys with you and lift them on your shoulders to a championship. That's how I played basketball. That's how Michael Jordan played basketball.
Same. I mean, you literally just compared yourself to Michael Jordan, who, by the way, didn't win until he had Scottie Pippen and Horace Grant.
Okay. Oh, my gosh. We're getting into a LeBron thing here, too.
So
this is back to the LeBron-Jordan debate.
The history of the NBA where there's 3 people that have won a title by themselves.
This report... Who are those 3 people? I'm just curious.
Rick Barry's one of them.
Yeah.
I mean, LeBron did take Boobie Gibson to a finals.
All right, in the Eastern Conference, then Dwight Howard took that. That's the most overrated finals appearance of all time. It got swept.
But my point is, Kobe needed Gasol again after he didn't have Shaq. Everybody needs somebody else. So, this idea of, let me just find 4 guys, and it's great.
Right, Giannis just got Miles Turner.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Who's apparently only, according to some, marginally better than Brook Lopez, who's a 75-year-old relic.
Yeah. I mean, he's younger than Brook Lopez. So I think the big picture question is, do you have a problem with the way NBA stars force their way out of cities? I don't like the way Giannis is doing it. I don't like the general attitude the NBA stars have. Bogues understands it. Give us a call, 888-710-4ISN, 888-710-4476. Do you have an issue with Giannis reports and tweeting, and we're not sure what they mean, and they're very confusing. Just say what you want, Giannis, and then we'll go from there because I'm getting tired of it. All right, coming up next, let's look at the other side of the trade. It is unbelievable to me that you can be in Game 7 of the NBA Finals and then just go to crap in a matter of a month in the NBA. But that is exactly what's happening. We'll dive into it next. Maggie and Perloff Show.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. .30 seconds remaining. 15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Welcome back, Maggie and Perloff Show. Maggie on vacation still. Andrew Bogusch sitting in. All right, Bogusch, let the audience in on your NBA fandom. Who's your team?
To be honest, I mean, the Nets by default, but the NBA has the least impact on my daily well-being as a fan.
Okay, dated. All right, right. You have other teams that I know you love because I like making fun of you for them when they lose.
Correct.
So can you imagine being a Pacers fan right now? And maybe you can if you really were a Nets fan.
They have good players, right?
Would it be you got to Game 7 of the NBA Finals and you might have won it until Tyrese Haliburton injured his Achilles. And we're going to talk to a doctor about the rash of Achilles injuries next segment. Then all of a sudden, you enter an offseason. Haliburton's probably not going to play next year because the injury was in late June.
Yeah.
And last night or yesterday, you lose center Miles Turner, who's a big piece of what you were doing, for better or worse. I know he's a bit of a polarizing player, so he's out. So imagine you're a young fan. Like, what do you got next year? You were so close, and now you are so far. That has to be an incredibly frustrating experience.
Except for the fact that I mean, maybe you find solace in the fact that you're going to have Tyrese Haliburton back to being himself after that. It's a 1-year proposition.
Okay.
That the rest of the roster is still young. He's going to come back. And maybe as much as you loved Miles Turner and as much as he wanted to stay there, and it might hurt to see him playing and beating you as a Buck, maybe he's more replaceable than we think. Maybe not in terms of like the emotional connection, the history with the franchise, but in terms of being a basketball player and working with Haliburton and in that system. Maybe you can find someone that's like him and you'll be okay for the 26-27 season.
Or another read is maybe you are a ridiculously cheap franchise who won't pay the luxury tax. If you're in Game 7 of the NBA Finals, you pay the luxury tax. Apparently, the Pacers never, ever, ever will pay it. And that is why they are losing their center, Miles Turner.
So I did hear people say yesterday that they were prepared to pay it.
Apparently not.
But then Haliburton's Achilles happened. Now, I understand changing plans. The Celtics are doing this in Boston post Jason Tatum. But if you're just assuming that the Achilles for Haliburton is a 1-year thing and he's back to himself for 26-27, then I probably would keep Miles Turner, even if you're eating kind of this first year of this contract. I would have gone into the luxury tax. I would have done it. I would have kept him for everything he means on the court and off the court. He wanted to stay too. You hate guys wanting to leave. He wanted to stay. Why couldn't you have dipped your toes in the luxury tax to keep him, knowing that in years 2, 3, and 4 of the contract, assuming he gets something similar that he got from the Bucks, that you have him once again with Tyrese Haliburton?
Yeah, I find the whole thing confusing. By the way, when the story came out, Miles Turner signs a 4-year, $107 million deal.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my God, he's bargain basement in the NBA. I've seen, for example, Jaren Jackson on the Grizzlies just got 5 years, $240 million. That's more than 200% of 107. And then Jackson immediately got, I think, surgery yesterday too, or a procedure, because that's the story about Jaren Jackson. I think that's a pretty good deal. $107 million for 4 years in today's NBA. That's not that much. I feel like the Pacers should have been able to keep this guy.
I would have thought so too, but I think the bigger conversation, and I wish EJ was here because he knows more of the details than us, is that clearly, these tax aprons, which were designed to prevent mega teams and whatever, they're very, very, very punitive. And maybe there's some buyer's remorse on the owner's side of things because they're realizing now in reality, in practice, that this is a little more restrictive and a little harsher than they were bargaining for.
You buy EJ's line when he says he understands the apron? Actual NBA executives, are you telling me EJ... No, come on. Nobody understands the apron.
No. His efficiency wasn't good and his field goal percentage and blah, 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 blah.
I mean, I believe that EJ believes he understands it,
Yeah.
but he doesn't.
EJ sees the entire NBA through Knicks-colored glasses. That's why
What's wrong with that?
Yeah, Manny's
Says
even
the guy
worse.
in the Knicks shirt.
You're not,
Knicks
you're not
hat?
wearing a Knicks shirt. Oh, man. How do you feel about your acquisition, Jordan Clarkson?
I don't hate it. I just hate the fact that the Knicks still don't have a head coach. How are you
the
signing
best.
guys and drafting dudes without a head coach?
It's the best.
Oh, my gosh.
All right.
All right.
Okay, the NBA is frustrating me, and I'm sure a lot of people right now. So let's get
Yeah, me
into
too.
some other headlines with Chris Lopresti. CeeLo, do you have anything non-NBA for us to chew on today?
A little bit. I mean, I was going to recap some of the
Oh, please.
Buck stuff, but you guys kind of dove into that already. I will first tell you we're sponsored by Progressive. Commercial insurance protects small businesses with affordable coverage options. Quote today at progressivecommercial.com. I mean, you guys did the Buck stuff in the open there, so you've got Lillard now free to kind of rehab with his family, with the Achilles, and figure out where his next destination is. It is nice to be paid out all that extra money without having to actually play for the team.
That's the
$113
life.
million. That'll be spread out over 5 years now as the Bucks will stretch the remainder of that contract in order to bring in Miles Turner. You've also got the Pistons adding Duncan Robinson in a sign and trade with the Heat. He gets himself a 3-year deal for $48 million. And the Thunder and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander agree to that Supermax deal, 4 years, $285 million, as the reigning league MVP now owns the highest annual salary in the game. That'd be $71.25 million
Yeah.
per year.
So Shohei gets $70 million a year, but it's deferred. Dak Prescott gets $60 million a year.
Here we go.
Is 71 a little much? Maybe. I'm not saying that SGA deserves to be the highest paid player.
Yeah.
But I just feel like I'm feeling a little bubble. Like that means though the players get what 48 or 49% of the revenue. Obviously, a lot of this TV money helped that. The owners must be if he can get $71 million a year, the owners must be making billions.
Gargantuan.
And I don't
73.
understand. I just don't understand it.
Yeah, I mean, and that, but that's also to your point about like value and comparing Jaren Jackson to Miles Turner. Like, I think Jaren Jackson's contract is one of those like computable ones where this is just what he gets. Miles Turner has a negotiated number, so his number is going to be different than Jaren Jackson's, obviously, value-wise and whatever. Because now we can project, right? I mean, we've projected what Luka's deal was going to be. We knew that this was going to be Shai's deal if he signed it now. Like, so it's only going to get crazier. It's almost like the NFL where it's like, oh, today you're the highest paid linebacker. Tomorrow somebody else is.
Yeah.
Well, the funny thing, so Luka will sign August 3rd, I believe is the date that he's allowed, or August 2nd.
Yeah.
He probably will. You know, the Jaren Jackson thing also had the backdrop of everyone criticizing Memphis as a place for NBA players, so they have to sign anyone they can.
Well, one person, I think.
Oh, no, I
criticized.
think everybody jumped on that. I think other players, was it Stephen A?
I thought Stephen A. said it, and everyone else was like, no, Memphis is pretty cool.
Oh, that's not what I read.
Okay.
I saw other NBA players saying, yeah, we don't like Memphis. I don't know if that's true, but even so, Memphis is a small market. Like, they're not going to get a lot of free agents.
Right.
So they had to re-sign Jaren Jackson. But I don't know. I just think that this money is kind of ridiculous. All these contracts. I'm sorry. Like I'm not saying anyone doesn't deserve it, but I'm seeing these numbers, and again, I'm going back to like I'm a simpleton. Like this is ridiculous.
I've said
like,
it once. I said it again. I'll say it again. I hate being poor, man. I wish I was 6'4" with a jumper.
Along those lines, going back to Lillard and a buyout, would we all trade both of our Achilles to get like our next 2 years' salary right now and not have to work?
Oh my God. When people originally were like, I can't believe they did this to Damian Lillard, I was like, oh my God, I can't believe they're doing this for Damian Lillard. He is so excited. He didn't fit there anyway. Did he look happy for 1 second in Milwaukee?
I don't think I make enough money to risk my two Achilles.
That's what I was going to ask. Are our salaries here or Damian Lillard's salary?
Not Lillard's.
Oh, no. I thought we got Lillard's salary.
No.
Oh, for our salaries? No way.
No.
We couldn't do that.
A big fat check right now to not work for the next 2 years?
No.
I might give you an
For
Achilles
an
for that.
Achilles?
You said 2 Achilles, though.
Yeah.
So you're going to spend
I might give you one.
Wouldn't even
half
do it-
of that time
Wouldn't even do it for a
rehabbing.
jam finger. I don't make that much money.
I'll give you actually 2 Achilles and Tommy John surgery for half a year of Damian Lillard's salary.
I'll take it.
Yeah. Well, I'll take it.
I'll take 2 Tommy Johns.
2 Tommy Johns, 2
take
Achilles.
3.
Screw up my ACL. I don't
let's go.
care.
I'll take SGA's contract.
Give me an abductor issue.
It's a full body cast.
I'll
$28
spend
million
6 months in a full body cast if it means that kind of money.
and an iron lung.
Drip shakes, everything.
Ensures, Pediasures, all the Sures.
Okay. CeeLo, what else?
A bit of a surprising or unusual NFL note here with training camps right around the corner. Darren Waller, the tight end's coming out of retirement after 1 year. He'll join the Dolphins after they traded Jonnu Smith to the Steelers Monday. So Waller was on the Giants' reserve retired list. That means Miami sending New York a 6th-round draft pick to acquire Waller. Now, this was just from a few weeks ago. Waller with the Side You Don't See podcast explaining his epiphany moment during a Giants-Bills primetime game early October of 2023.
It was in the first quarter of the game. We were running like this counter lead running play, and I'm kind of like leading through the hole like I'm a fullback, and the play is working. But I sit down on the sideline after like a drive where we ran like 3 times, and I'm like, what the am I doing with my life? I'm out here playing fullback.
So he looked up at that point in search of some answers.
I don't even want to do this anymore. And I'm just like looking at the moon. It's like early first quarter, second quarter. Nobody else would really even know that I'm thinking this, but I'm on the sideline like, yep, I'm going to finish this year to the best of my ability, but I'm definitely done playing after this year.
Or for a year, I guess is what he meant. Or really just dislike Brian Dable and the Giants. Not entirely sure.
What is it about playing in Buffalo that just has, players just decide to retire mid-game?
A lot of things. Let's be honest. That's a sound logic.
We
The
saw-
Giants line Darren Waller, who's the pass catching tight end at fullback. I would retire too.
And that was a game they should have won late. There was a non-holding call in the end zone. I think Tyrod Taylor started the quarterback in that game for the Giants.
Oh, jeez.
So there was a lot going on there.
I think wasn't Vontae Davis the player who decided to retire mid-game as well?
And
Yeah.
yeah.
For the Bills, right?
Yeah, for the Bills. That was a time in college.
Yeah, sadly, he passed.
Yeah, he did recently.
Vernon Davis's brother, I believe, right?
Yeah. Did the Giants get any credit for getting anything out of Miami for this?
2026 sixth-round pick.
6th-round pick.
I was
Next
surprised.
Right. Like they didn't want him. I don't think he obviously didn't want them.
Oh, what makes you say that?
So they had almost no leverage, and yet they got something.
Well, because they put him on that list. So yeah,
Right, wouldn't you just wait if you're anybody else to make the Giants release him because he wants to play and they don't want him to play
I
for
don't
them?
know that they have to do that with that reserve retired list.
But if you want to come off, you can come off. I don't think they can hold him there.
If you want to come off, but then if they hold his rights, you know what I mean?
Yeah, but if they don't want him, then they have to get rid of him.
I guess.
And then you get him for nothing?
I don't know. Can you
No,
just?
no.
Yeah, I don't know.
Maybe this speaks deeper into what's going on right now in Miami and what's going on in that front office.
What do you mean?
Maybe they don't know what they're doing. Maybe Mike McDaniel's on his way out.
Oh, you think?
Hey, Pete.
You got we'll do the Dolphins.
franchise.
Inept.
You think I keep and Maggie thinks he's going to be the first coach fired too.
Me
But
too.
do you think if Tua Tagovailoa is healthy, they're not going to go 8-9 or 9-8 like they have done for the last
He's
decade?
not going to, unfortunately, he won't be.
Okay,
This is how he
he
is.
looks bigger.
Yeah, but you know
I'd
what?
say that every offseason.
But you know what? I mean, that's a ticking time bomb, that
Yeah.
head injury.
They have disaster written all over them.
Well, I mean,
last
even
place in that division.
So 2 years ago, a lot of people were into them. Just
Yeah.
if Tua's health is your main issue, or what you're saying? What's the issue then?
all of it. To his health, they apparently don't. They don't. What's the right?
They
way
don't
to
treat
describe
players
this?
well, according to Raheem Mostert. I mean,
Well, and then they're apparently they have some. Maybe they got rid of some of those guys this offseason, but they've had issues with people being late to stuff and like not respecting Mike McDaniel, and then they've been bleeding talent on defense. They're a net worse than they were a week ago after trading Jalen Ramsey.
but I mean, obviously Ramsey is not. I mean, Ramsey's a fault too because the Rams got rid of Ramsey too. I mean, a lot of people have gotten rid of Ramsey. I'm not going to fault the Dolphins for that.
No.
He's obviously an issue.
He's an issue, and there is some addition by subtraction. But
Yeah.
they're also eating, I think, $18 million, and he was their only good. Well, he was their best cornerback still, and now they're down him, and it's July 2nd.
2 years ago, they were still flashy.
Yeah, not
Dude.
anymore.
McDaniel was relatively new. Oh, he's going to turn Tua around. Tyreek Hill was more at the peak of his
Everybody's been
abilities.
hurt.
Yeah.
Everybody. So if Tyreek Hill and Devon Achane are healthy, they are going to win some football games. I'm telling you, they're not going to be quite as bad as everybody wants them here to be.
It's time for Mike McDaniel to scale back on the Mike McDaniel stuff. Like he's got to take off the cool glasses or less hair gel. Like he's got to come off the he's cooler than everybody else thinks.
Get
How
out
about,
of the
how about the
Twilight Zone.
joggers hiked up to the calf?
Get him to your ankle. Like, you got to do full length sweatpants down the sideline. You got to just do something to take the edge off here. We get a little more towards the middle.
Well, we've seen him vape on the sidelines. I think he is doing something to take the edge off.
But can I just share their schedule real quick?
Go
If
ahead.
you get a healthy Tua and they're a warm weather team, at Indianapolis,
Win.
Daniel Jones, win, dog. New England week 2. I know in Miami, we'll see about that. At Buffalo, we lost. Jets, who are unknown right now. At Carolina, I mean that's possibly the easiest opening 5 of any team in the league.
Perloff's got him going 4-1 out of the gate.
Yep.
Well, I mean, just say, what else you want to do? Give them Cleveland and the Raiders? Like, this is as easy as it gets.
If they don't, then he should be fired.
Well, they're not going to fire him if he's 3-2. I mean, or if he's 4-5. I don't think they're going to fire. Like, they're going to let him play the year. That's what I'm saying. They'll go 9-8. They've gone 9-8 like 5 years in a row.
Don't tell Woody Johnson that, by the way. About not firing the coach when the
He's too busy.
record's not that bad.
He's too busy buying soccer teams.
Yeah.
Or all the,
Also, you guys forget they have a lot of names on defense that
Do you
are
know who
still
the
there.
next man up at quarterback is if Tua goes
Yeah,
down?
Zach Wilson. Do you guys know what happens when quarterbacks leave the Jets?
Yeah.
They get better.
They get way better. I can't wait. I hope Zach
Sometimes
gets in
it
there.
takes a while, but
It
eventually
may
they
take
do.
a decade.
Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah. Let me get some baseball in here. Shohei Ohtani joining the 30-homer club on the first day of July.
Ohtani awaits the 3-2 pitch from Shane Smith. Here it comes. He swings. It's a high drive to right field. Way back it goes, and this ball is gone. A home run. Shohei Ohtani with a blast. His 30th of the season.
That's Dodgers Radio, part of a 6-1 win for L.A. over the White Sox as Ohtani joins Cal Raleigh and Aaron Judge with 30 or more homers. It is only the 5th time in MLB history 3 players have reached that number before the All-Star break, accomplished previously in 1969, 1994, 1998 with an asterisk next to that one, and 2019
Why, what happened
as
in
well. No, nothing happened. That was
only a year
little
old.
unusual. 1998? No, never. No, we don't even acknowledge that. WNBA, the Fever without Caitlin Clark. They were 10.5-point underdogs and were playing on the home court of the first-place team, the Minnesota Lynx, but they still won the WNBA Commissioners Cup final on Tuesday, 74-59, taking home the league's in-season championship, and that was with Clark sidelined for a 3rd consecutive game because of a groin injury. So good job by them.
Yeah, go Fever.
The Commissioner's
Yeah, I
Cup.
mean, come on. I mean, the headline was it was a major headline. Fever win without Clark. So
Yeah,
is anybody going to watch that game without Clark?
probably not, but
Okay.
notable that they got it done without her services.
Am I supposed to hold a parade here? What are you looking at me for,
No.
CeeLo? Like,
That's why it's like the last line in the update. You know, we just throw that out there.
I have a question for you.
Sure.
Are you going to do the Red Panda update later in the show at any point?
If you'd like me to, I mean, I don't
Yeah.
know how much there is. There's not any like great audio context to play with that.
And they cut away very fast
Yeah.
on the feed.
Yeah.
I mean, listen, you've done a lot of NBA games, Bogusch.
He's also done a lot of unicycle riding.
Yeah, and a lot of.
Actually, more unicycle riding than NBA games.
Have you? I've seen Red Panda at least 5 times live. The famous halftime act. He rides on a unicycle and balances plates. That is ugly. You can watch the video of her. She went down and
Definitely
was seriously
broke her arm.
injured. What's that?
Definitely broke her arm.
Oh, okay, or her wrist.
I mean,
Yeah,
could have
yeah.
been a lot worse.
yeah, she could have
Agreed.
landed on her head.
Yeah. I mean, a wrist or an arm on
Yeah.
on the grand scheme of things.
Yeah.
Yeah. The fact that she was able to kind of get up, and I know she started to walk off, right, and then they put her in a wheelchair, but
I mean, I don't want to say this is now a big trend or everyone's been talking about Achilles tears. I think we got to start talking about the dangers of halftime acts. But
Dr.
for
Rock's
now,
next.
thanks, CeeLo. For now, let's go. We're going to talk about the Achilles injuries. Friend of the show, Dr. Rock Positano, is going to come on. He has a strong theory into why this is happening. You're going to want to hear it. That's next. Maggie and Perloff Show.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 4 minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Welcome back, Maggie and Perloff Show. Andrew Bogusch sitting in for Maggie today, who's still on vacation. I believe she's somewhere at a lake with thousands of other people singing either Sweet Caroline or Don't Stop Believin' by Journey. That's the latest update we have.
She loves herself a day party. Usually it's in a club in D.C. at 2 in the afternoon, but now we've gone outdoors in the summertime.
I'm not ordering a blow-up doll.
Dirty Lake, I think some Labatt Blues, and 80s rock like she loves.
A little too much nipple.
Yeah.
Never.
Maggie, by the way, has been texting me all week. She has been listening to the show. She is upset that she's been taking a lot of strays. But it's her fault. We're doing this Mount Olympus, 4 sports gods from every major sports city, and she has had one unusual pick for almost every city. And she doesn't understand why people don't understand her picks.
It's her fault times 2 because she's making the picks, and she shouldn't be listening to the show on vacation.
Correct.
She needs to get it. If it's one thing if you see a clip on social media or whatever, but if she's sitting lakeside pre-dirty marina water pool party, and listening to us, she's doing vacation wrong.
Yeah, well, she definitely is. You know Maggie. Maggie is not one who eases into vacation. She is a hard worker.
There.
But she should then, because she is such a hard worker, she should completely disconnect.
Yep, she doesn't. I can tell you as a fact, she doesn't, and she's watching every word you say right now.
Exactly. She should disconnect when I say that I'm outraged that she left Randy Moss off the list for Minneapolis.
Oh, yesterday's Minneapolis. She put Herb Brooks, the Team USA coach. That's not doing it for you?
If there's a coach on there, it should be Bud Grant.
Right. Have you been following along with the Mount Olympus afar?
Yes.
Yes, I have.
And do you have any? Have you?
I can
had
show you
issues?
the texts.
I probably with every one that she's had, I've had an issue with.
Okay, Pete, we want to do something with you. Since we're lucky enough to have you here today with us, we want you to do a Mount Olympus. Have you been told about this project yet?
I've heard about it, yes.
Yeah, so we were debating what's the topic we want Pete's Mount Olympus on. Pro wrestlers for sure, 4 top, and then overpaid bets.
Okay, yeah, sure. Sure, I will.
Actually, I hope our next guest was hearing that part because I'm sure he has opinions on overpaid New York Mets as well. But he is the guy you have to talk to about this Achilles injury rash. Of course, that's Dr. Rock Positano, friend of the show, foot, ankle, heel, and foot joint preservation doctor at HSS, Hospital for Special Surgery. Of course, prolific author. Dr. Positano, how you doing? And we have a lot of issues. Maggie's out today, and the ship is not steady.
Oh, then we have to steady the ship, Pearl.
So Achilles have been in the news a lot lately. And we've talked about this before, mostly about Aaron Rodgers. You came on the show and said Aaron Rodgers was going to need 2 years to heal. And it looked like you were absolutely right about that. When you see what's happening in the NBA playoffs, and a Mets pitcher got hurt the other day as well, what is behind all these Achilles injuries right now?
Well, Pearl, I think the important thing is that they need to do conditioning that helps to keep that Achilles tendon very flexible. Okay. And the problem is that the Achilles tendon is the strongest and largest tendon in the body. But unfortunately, it also has the lowest blood supply. And when there's low blood supply, that means there's less elasticity and sometimes even less strength. So I think the big thing here is to try to see who is possibly predisposed to developing these types of injuries, particularly the Achilles tendon. And one of the protocols we use here is that we use 2-dimensional diagnostic ultrasound to look at a person's Achilles and their plantar fascia, because this technology allows you to see the beginnings of a tear, meaning the absolute beginning, initial tearing going on in either the Achilles or the heel. Okay, and I think that should become a protocol or a standard protocol for professional athletes to see who's more predisposed or who's more likely to develop a problem like this.
But Dr. Positano, why now, though? Because I assume everything you described was true 30 years ago as well. It seems like, and maybe this is just a casual observation, it seems like we're seeing more and more Achilles tears.
Yeah, and I think also, Pearl, there may be a little bit of a coincidence factor there too, okay? But of course, you remember something. You know, it's the end of the season. I mean, these guys and gals are working really hard all year. I mean, let's face it. I mean, they're warriors, and they tend to ignore sometimes the smaller signs of what could be going on in their foot or their ankle. And I think that's part of the problem. But remember, we're talking about high level play. And I think in the playoffs, I tend to think that the level of play and the intensity is a lot more. And of course, what makes an Achilles tendon so dangerous is that it happens when there's a large force delivered over a short period of time. Now, in the basketball scenario, that could be a quick pivot, jumping higher than normal, or being a little bit more vigorous in their jumping activities. So I think part of the issue has to be conditioning these athletes and also looking at preventive strategies, because I think that's the big part. And, you know, also different types of feet, for instance, predispose you. If you have a high arch foot, you're more predisposed to developing an Achilles problem. And I think the thing here is that one of the things that we do use prescription foot orthoses or orthotics that help to better stabilize the foot and take the pressure off the back part of the heel. Particularly, Pearl, the part where the Achilles goes into the actual heel bone itself. There's a lot of tension there. So what we try to do is troubleshoot. And if a person has a foot type that tends to make them more predisposed to an Achilles injury, we like to neutralize it right away. And usually we do that using either something called a Malio train, which is a special orthopedic sock, and B, a combination of a prescription insert.
Dr. Rock, after Haliburton and Tatum's injury, there was conversation that the move that they were both making, this kind of backward step to start going in the other direction, was a specific problem, and it's a new move that players have been taught. Do you think that specific effort can cause the Achilles tear and maybe should not be taught in basketball circles?
Well, I think it challenges the Achilles tendon insertion more. There's no question about that. And again, you're talking about a tremendously high stress area where many times the body's weight through force goes through that Achilles tendon. So, of course, anything that changes the mechanics is going to make you more predisposed to injuring that particular area. But I think the important thing here is identifying at an early stage if there's some breakdown or there's some beginning tearing or what they call cystic degeneration inside the actual tendon itself. I think if you can predispose that and see what's going on in that area, it makes a big difference.
Okay, so everyone on the show knows that Rock also wrote a book called Dinner with DiMaggio about Joe DiMaggio, who's your close friend. Rock, we've been doing this thing on the show called the Mount Olympus of Maggie and Perloff show, where we pick 4 sports heroes from every city. And for New York, it was really hard because you had Lou Gehrig, Mickey Mantle. Of course, I put Joe DiMaggio on there, but Maggie did not put DiMaggio on her top 4 New York athletes. And she's not here to defend herself, but I told her, I'm like, you cannot do that because Rock's not going to like that. She made a mistake, right? He is one of the top 4 sports gods in New York City, correct?
There's no question. Look, Joe is legendary for so many reasons. I mean, obviously his playing ability, 9 world championships, 10 pennants, 56-game hitting streak, lost 3 years to the Surge that they probably would have won another 2 or 3 World Series. I mean, there's no question about who the main man was in this town. And of course, Joe is an elegant person too, And speaking about Joe is one of the people that initially discussed this with me about how protocols and training, and they didn't have it back then when he was playing back in the 40s. And he said that technology today should be based on basically prevention. So that's why I think, he's a perfect example. Everybody knows his famous heel spur injury, which is what brought him to see me many years ago. But I mean, I think he also recognized as a professional athlete that there needs to be better training protocols and better diagnostic tests to help identify at a very early stage there may be the beginnings of some type of breakdown in the tendon.
Rock, we only have a minute left, unfortunately. Quick question. You've done a lot of work with the Los Angeles Dodgers. Now, it's not necessarily your specialties, but Shohei Ohtani pitching and hitting. What is your general take on what kind of stress that's going to put on his body? He hit 101.7 on the radar gun. Are you worried at all for Shohei's health?
No, let me tell you something. This man is an unbelievable physical specimen, okay? I mean, kidding around, I guess Americans would compare him to Godzilla, okay? I mean, the guy is unbelievable. He's very strong. And, of course, the Dodgers have a very excellent, training program. They have the best people in the world who help to really keep these people in shape. So I think this fellow is going to do really, really well in all of his capabilities.
All right, love it. Well, thank you, Rock. Next time we'll have a little more time because I'm not sure this Achilles problem is going away, but thank you for the advice out there. I hope teams are listening. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, Pearl. We appreciate your help as always, okay?
That's Rock Positano, Hospital for Special Surgery, the foremost foot and ankle specialist in America. He's been talking about Achilles and prevention for a while. I just have to wonder, I also think Tyrese Haliburton, Kevin Durant, even Damian Lillard, these are not big guys. So I would be really...
they're big guys.
Well, I saw Tim Grover, Jordan's trainer, said these guys they're not putting on muscle anymore. Haliburton's not, he would not have lasted in the 90s, and you know that, folks.
Sure. But he's still 6'3". He's the biggest guy in the room here still.
But, okay, now we're nitpicking. All right, coming up next, do some college football. Arch Manning, Maggie Perloff.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Maggie and Perloff on the Infinity Sports Network.
Welcome back, Maggie Perloff Show. Andrew Bogusch is in for Maggie today, trying to make sense of Giannis's passive-aggressive tweets and some reports that he wasn't happy that Damian Lillard has been waived. I don't think we're ever going to agree on this. I think I'm tired of it. I want NBA stars to just try and win on their own instead of getting so much help. It's lame to me. I'm sorry.
Well, but Giannis did win. So does that allow him to then want to win somewhere else?
No.
Okay.
I'm not giving Giannis a pass today. Just say what you want, dude. And if you want to stay in Milwaukee, stay. Don't take the offseason to evaluate it. I'll tell you where, college football, we don't have this issue. You know why? Because everybody just leaves. Everyone's in the portal, but you got to get that NIL deal. One guy who has not left, which is shocking, is Arch Manning, who, of course, I think is going to be the story of the college football season. Maggie's obsessed with Arch Manning. He's going to be the Texas quarterback. Finally, Quinn Ewers is out of the way. And yesterday, we had probably the foremost college football voice in America make a comparison for Arch that I did not see coming. Did you see this, folks?
I did see it.
Paul Feinbaum.
Yeah, I'm not surprised that he believes that.
Well, are you saying Paul Feinbaum is prone to hyperbole?
Yes, and just I would have guessed he'd be on this side of this argument.
Okay, let's hear from Feinbaum on Arch Manning coming into next year.
With Tagovailoa, I think there's a reasonably good chance that Texas would have beaten Ohio State and won the national championship. They're very capable of doing it again this year. I believe also that Arch Manning is the best college football quarterback we have seen since Tim Tebow entered the scene in 2006.
Okay. That is a bold statement because Tim Tebow, of course, won 2 national titles, one as a full-time starter. First of all, Joe Burrow is better than Tim Tebow, so I don't even know what that means. Maybe he's talking about entering the season.
Even before that, naming anybody else, whether it's Burrow or Trevor Lawrence, that can't be true. That sentence can't be true. Maybe he'll end up being that, but he can't. He said is, not will be, not could be. He said is the best college quarterback since Tim Tebow, which means he already is that, which means he was already really good last year, which means that either Steve Sarkisian is a terrible head coach or that Quinn Ewers is better than Arch Manning, which means he's better than Tim Tebow. Then he was the best quarterback in college football since Tim Tebow, because coaches are in the business of winning games.
Yep.
They play the best players. So and especially when their last name is Manning, if Arch Manning was that good, he would have played over Quinn Ewers last year.
So that's interesting. You're taking this as a possible indictment of Steve Sarkisian, or saying either it's a lie or Sark messed up last year.
Yeah, I think Sark played the correct quarterback. It was Steve Spurrier who said recently that if Arch is so good, why didn't he play? That's the more logical question in my mind. That's the more logical thought. If he was so good, he would have played. That's how this works. Coaches don't play worse players.
Okay. Let's go back to yesterday on the show. Quincy Avery, who is the foremost quarterback trainer in the country, you could argue, trains a lot of college guys, trains a lot of pro guys. He has followed Arch Manning. He knows the high school scene really well, has seen Arch Manning play at every level. And I would say that he's not exactly sold that Arch Manning is the generational talent that everyone else sees.
I think that we're asking for a lot. Like, we haven't seen him play a ton of football. Like, our opinion that this guy should be so great, when the things that we saw when he came in against, like, top-tier defenses wasn't – he looked like he had deer in the headlights a little bit. Like, he was not ready for that situation.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
Now, remember he came in one game where Ewers was ineffective, He came in an impossible situation. I'm not sure I totally agree with Quincy. There wasn't much he could do in that game.
Okay, so and like that could just be chalked up to inexperience.
That was the Georgia game, right?
Or being just thrown into the fire in the moment. You know, you're ready, but you're not ready to play. Like, so there's that. But the bigger picture, which I think is the bigger point here, is that you can only assume that he wasn't ready to play last year since he didn't play last year. Since they had the ability to take Quinn Ewers off the field or not put him back on the field, and they did because he was the better option.
Well, yeah, but Quinn Ewers is older, and Quinn Ewers was #1 overall recruit. He was a big deal, and he got drafted, and maybe albeit in the 7th round.
But if Paul Feinbaum is telling you or believes, and if we are to believe that it's true that Arch Manning is the best quarterback since Tim Tebow, then the decisions by Steve Sarkisian last year were nonsensical. It makes much more sense that Sark picked the better quarterback last year, that Arch wasn't ready to play. So then therefore, maybe he's not as great as we think he's going to be. He might get there, but you can't say he is anything right now because he didn't play, and they had chances and chances and chances to play him, and they didn't.
That's because they had a veteran quarterback who got them all the way to the Final Four.
And this has never happened before where somebody has
been
benched.
Did Tim Tebow start? When did Tim Tebow earn the starting job?
Did Tim Tebow sit for 2 years?
Wow, let's see. He played.
And in this day and age,
he sat for 1 year, but he won a title that year, and he wasn't the starter.
Quinn Ewers could have been anywhere else, playing well, making the same NIL if Texas didn't want him. And that conversation has happened a million times ago. Hey, man, sorry, we've got this kid coming behind you, and it's his turn to play.
I mean, okay, you can at least see the logic of Texas thought they had a championship-level team with Quinn Ewers because they had some proof of concept.
But
Arch Manning's 19 years old.
But that's the point. The point is they made a value judgment. We don't need to go back and rehash why they did it. They did it. And the only assumption you can believe then is that Arch wasn't good enough to play. So he can't possibly be on July 2nd the best college quarterback since Tim Tebow. That's just not a feasible thing.
I don't see it that way. I mean, listen, they recruited Quinn Ewers. He was at Ohio State, and they promised him things, and he was a very effective quarterback. Like, why would you have benched Quinn Ewers?
Because if you had the best college quarterback since Tim Tebow, you bench Quinn Ewers for him.
But he was younger. He was 20 last year.
So, but if he's better, who cares what his age is?
Because there's obviously some projection in Feinbaum's take. Listen, I don't love Feinbaum's take. I don't agree. I don't think we've seen enough, but I'm not going nearly as far as you are. I understood why. Obviously, there was very compelling reasons to start Quinn Ewers. He had been playing a lot of college football. He's older. He knew the system. He was good enough to take them very, very close to a national title.
But did they win the national title?
No, but
Could they have won it with the next Tim Tebow?
But they didn't know that he wasn't going to win the title until they actually lost.
And that's my point. You're with me. You're not making the disconnect strong enough.
No, I mean, Arch Manning was told you're going to sit behind Quinn Ewers. So they committed to a path. Maybe Ewers was a little bit disappointing last year, but he certainly took them pretty darn far.
A lot of teams have promised a lot of things and changed plans because of production or because of what they see in practice, and they didn't.
But Quinn Ewers was producing.
Right. That's my point. He was producing better than they thought Arch Manning could produce.
No. It's not that simple at quarterback. It's not that simple. Like, to pull the starter, you really have to be sure that he's not a guy who knows the system like the back of his hand. His third year as a starter there, to pull him, like, that's a risk because you don't know what's happening with Arch.
But we're talking, but that is my point. That's my point. They did all of these things. They had, even last year with the injury, they were given the opening to put Arch Manning on the field and keep him there. And they didn't have to just bench Quinn Ewers. He gets hurt. They put Arch in. He plays acceptably. They could have gone, okay, we think we're better now with Arch. We're going to let this ride. And they didn't because they still thought that Quinn was the better option. So when you fast forward to now, there's just not a way to say a sentence that Quinn Ewers is the best college quarterback since Tim Tebow.
Everything you're saying, by the way, is logical, but that's not the story here. It's not why Arch was on the bench. There was a lot going on in Texas. Basically,
coaches don't keep better players on the bench.
At quarterback, if you come into the season with a guy, you just don't pull a veteran just because you think the guy behind might be better. there is commitments and there's promises. Yeah, I think there's more than just better players.
I love this like Candyland Utopia version of
it's quarterback. No,
it's
no,
college football.
So,
guy, that position changes at every school
but
almost
Quinn
every
Ewers
year.
was winning football games. Like, when were you going to pull him? Like in the second half of the Final Four game?
When was the last time? And now they're not. It's not all apples to apples. But when was the last time Ohio State had the same quarterback in back-to-back seasons between guys leaving and transferring in and out, or going, okay, we don't want you anymore?
Well, see,
Fields,
Kyle, I think had 2
like
seasons.
Kyle McCord was gone after a year, right?
Yeah,
and went to Will Howard.
Right, but that was Kyle McCord. But
And
he wasn't
you don't
winning.
think promises were made?
Yeah, but he didn't get to the Final Four. Like, he wasn't winning at the level that Quinn Ewers was winning football games, like, the whole time. When were you going to pull him exactly?
When he was hurt. And
then not go back?
And you put the next Tim Tebow out there? Yeah, not go back to him.
Yeah,
This is not about
this
Texas.
is an experience thing. I think this is honestly an experience thing. Ewers was older and more experienced.
We don't need to rewrite history.
Yeah.
I'm using what they did. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm just saying what they did makes Paul Feinbaum's sentence that we played a sentence that you can't say out loud. The sentences that Quincy said, that Steve Spurrier said, those are the more logical thoughts to have about Arch Manning. And we may all be wrong. He may be great. But those are the ones, the evidence tells you that those questions and those statements are closer to reality than him being the best since Tim Tebow.
But can't you project a little bit here in this state?
But he didn't project.
But is it allowed? But it's implied. There was an
is.
implied projection in that take. He's not saying that Arch Manning has achieved more than any college football player of all time. He's saying he is the best quarterback coming into his season. He is saying that since Tim Tebow.
So then, did he make exponential improvements since January? Because if he was Tim Tebow, he had to play over Quinn Ewers, and he didn't.
No,
Promises be damned.
I mean, you oversimplify. They had an older quarterback who was good enough to get them to the title.
And
so
I
they're
think
not
you're
going to
looking at
bench
this
him.
too sweetly. That if you were sitting on the next Tim Tebow and you didn't play him
Do you know
for
how many
Quinn
times
Ewers,
that's happened in the history of college football? Millions.
and how many times have people been benched for who they think is the better quarterback or the better running back or the better defensive end?
There's tons of times. Tim Tebow obviously came in and was better than Chris Leak, and they didn't start him.
You think that if you were to somehow quantify promises kept and promises broken, you think promises kept has more in that column?
I think a quarterback, when your veteran quarterback is winning, it's hard to pull him. His
2
age
years.
matters. I mean, Quinn Ewers knew that system like the back of his hand.
For 2 years, they kept Arch Manning on the bench behind Quinn Ewers.
Right, who is a very good quarterback.
For 2 years, they did this with the risk of Arch leaving, going somewhere else, and having nothing.
All arranged. Yeah, Sark knew Arch wasn't going to leave.
So, which means what?
That
they can't be that good either.
No.
Arch signed up to sit for 2 years?
You're saying he didn't leave because he wasn't that good?
I'm saying
that's ridiculous.
I'm saying Arch signed up to sit for 2 years?
Yes,
they signed up to not play?
Yes, he absolutely did. The Mannings and Sark worked this all out 100%. You think that he was competing for the job last year? He was not.
He should have been.
No, he came to Texas. He's like, I want to learn in this system, and I know I'm behind Quinn Ewers, but that's fine.
So why
didn't he leave then?
So then again, if you are sitting for 2 years, acknowledging that you're not ready to play, that you need that much seasoning, whatever.
He wants to play at Texas.
Then you can't be the next Tim Tebow. I can't. Those two things can't go side by side.
But you understand the whole process of what happened here, right? Like, it wasn't like Arch was coming into college football and saying, where can I play? Everyone knew when he got to Texas that he was going to sit. That was all prearranged.
We spent the entire last year wondering when he was going to come in.
I did not. I thought it was yours.
Like the entire year, wondering. This is all Maggie talked about. And then when Ewers got hurt, that's all anyone talked about. Where was Arch going? Was he going to go back to the bench or not? And how well does he have to play to keep the job?
So just let's be clear. You're saying the only reason he didn't play was he was not good enough to get in the lineup.
I'm saying that there always is a value judgment. Whatever has been promised, whatever has been set up, whatever has been aligned, there was always a value judgment. At some point in there, in some form or fashion, in every decision that they made, there was a value judgment that Quinn was still better than Arch Manning.
Yes, because he's way older and he knows the system so well.
Right.
Of course.
So again, then Arch can't be Tim Tebow. That's all I'm saying. And this
but
is
Tebow sat too, just like Arch.
He sat for a year, right?
Right. Tebow started at 20, just like Arch is going to start at 20.
Yeah,
Arch is young too. Remember that. He's not. He's going to.
I know.
He'll be in the NFL draft at 21.
I get it. And he still may be amazing. But we don't need to go as far as calling him the next Tim Tebow where when he sat for 2 years.
I agree with that, but to say that this was a normal situation where he couldn't break the starting lineup is just not actually what happened. Talk to anyone in Texas. That's not what went down here.
But if he was lighting things up, so you think that?
Yes, he was. I'm sure he was amazing in practice because he is amazingly talented.
So they willingly kept a better option off the
not
field?
better because Quinn Ewers was a great option too.
So they didn't win the whole thing, and I'm not blaming on Quinn Ewers, right?
Right.
I'm not saying that they didn't win because of Quinn Ewers. But if this guy, if I'm right or wrong, I cannot fathom that they kept a generational quarterback on their bench because of an agreement or whatever. At some point, now, had you flipped it, right? Had Arch Manning been the starter and along comes highly touted prospect Quinn Ewers and you hung on to Arch longer because he had Manning in the name,
right?
That would make sense to me. Quinn Ewers,
but Quinn Ewers was a huge deal too. I mean,
I get it. But if he is also expendable, if the guy named Manning behind him is playing better than him in practice,
where were you gonna dump Ewers? I'm just curious. Like, at what point? Like you're saying, like late. Like, why would you have benched Ewers if you were sorry?
So personally, I mean, if we're gonna go rewind. Personally, I was surprised there was a second year of Ewers over Arch. Like I thought 1 year makes sense. That's fine. I get
Arch
it.
is still pretty young.
I get, but what 1 year? Sure. 2, from the beginning, seemed to me to be a value judgment that Quinn was still the better option.
Even though the Mannings said they were very clear, like he's going to sit at Texas. They had no problem with that. Based on the fact that he didn't leave.
I can't sit there and tell you that I remember every single sentence that they said.
He clearly wasn't promised a starting job and could have transferred.
He could, right, and he didn't.
But he didn't. He was, he wanted to play.
But maybe he thought he was going to win the job, and then he didn't.
I don't think so. I don't think that's how that went down. And by the way, Ewers was kind of awesome toward the end of the year.
I get it.
Yeah.
So, and again,
they have a pro-level quarterback ahead of you. That just happens in college football.
Hold on a second.
Yeah.
A pro-level quarterback who got picked when?
7th round.
Okay. Arch Manning will be the first pick in the draft when he's in a draft.
But
right? So that's not, that's not the same thing either.
But you have a championship level team.
Yeah.
And you have a guy who's been running your offense forever. It's not easy to pull him out for a guy who is not.
It's not, but that decision has been made before.
I think they started off that segment with Tua Tagovailoa. They pulled him at halftime on the national title game. Because Jalen was...
that's what the Tua mention was?
I assume because Jalen Hurts was not playing well, about a guy, a generational player who was waiting to start. Tua Tagovailoa was as big a recruit as, huge. And he didn't start his freshman year. He sat behind Jalen Hurts. Then Jalen Hurts was ineffective. If Quinn Ewers was ineffective
but that was the end of Tua's first year, right?
Yeah.
Tua didn't sit for 2 years behind Jalen Hurts. And also, we're going to use that comparison. Jalen Hurts is an exponentially better pro quarterback than Quinn Ewers is going to be. So again, that's not even the same. That's not even the same comparison. Quinn Ewers, and this is my point here is never to go back and rewrite Texas history. But what Texas history tells me is that you cannot right now say that that Arch Manning is the next Tim Tebow. Because if he was the next Tim Tebow, he would have played last year because at some point Sark would have went, hey, Quinn, man, I'm really sorry. I love you. You've given me this. You've given me that. But I think that we can win the title with Arch.
Yep.
And I'm not sure that we can with you, so I'm making a change.
I think that's a myopic view of the dynamic in Texas. Because, listen, this was not a normal dynamic. The Manning said, we're going to wait. We have no problem waiting. This was... this is a partnership between a family and a coach. I don't think it was quite as simple as you're saying, like best quarterback plays.
And I also don't think it's a Hallmark movie where they're all sitting there going, man, we are best friends. Sucks that we didn't win, but thank God everybody likes each other still.
Well, again, they did pretty darn good.
They did, but they didn't win the last game.
They didn't win the last game because they were going against a juggernaut. And honestly, to pull Ewers for a young kid who, even a phenom, would have probably been a mistake because Ewers was running the offense. Well, he was okay. Against Arizona State, he pulled that one pass out of his butt at the end of the game. Was incredible. Listen, again, Quinn Ewers, a.k.a. Joe Dirt back in the day, he's also not some scrub. I know he was disappointing, but he was also the #1 overall recruit. probably before Arch, the biggest recruit since Vince Young in Texas. It was a big deal. I know he's a transfer, but it was a big deal to get Quinn Ewers.
It definitely was. And I'm not here disparaging Quinn Ewers' college resume or anything like that. All I'm saying is that I believe that coaches at the end of the day make decisions about winning football games. And sometimes that involves switching positions. So if Steve Sarkisian didn't switch quarterback, I'm trusting him that decision meant that Quinn Ewers was the better player, regardless of promises, relationships, agreements, whatever, that he was just simply the better quarterback, which then when we get to today doesn't allow you to tell me that Arch Manning is Tim Tebow.
So I understand what you're saying does make sense in a vacuum, but listen, Quinn Ewers got them the Final Four the year before.
Right.
So you're going to bench him?
I'm gonna actually.
It's hard. You got a guy who got you the first Final Four in forever. You're going to actually bench him because a kid beat him in preseason.
Well, right, because these are meritocracies, right? I mean, if a guy beats you for your
position, if your quarterback is good enough to take you to the Final Four, you start that guy next year 99.9% of the time.
Unless you want to win the Final Four, and you think the other guy can win you the Final Four.
I think that'd be a strange move for a college football coach to get a team that far and then say, you know what, you're benched.
Okay, if we could go in a time machine and last offseason, or at the end of that, 2 Januaries ago, they sat down and said, Quinn, I think we've gone as far as we can go. Arch's already been here for a year. He's learned the system. You've taught him really well. We really appreciate it. It's time for Arch to have the job. And Quinn went and got $6 million to play quarterback from somewhere else. Do you think they would have been universally panned for making that decision, Texas?
No, but
exactly.
But I do think that the normal is Quinn Ewers was good enough to get them right to the brink of a title.
Yeah.
And then, so you're going to just let that guy go? Why would you not start him? Most teams,
because you have Arch, because you have a better option. Like every other time somebody gets put in the
Arch was young. You know that. And
every other time a kid gets kicked into the portal, it's because somebody's better than him.
Yeah, I just think Quinn Ewers was too good to let go.
Right, but that's my point.
Right, like he was fine. He was good.
He was better than Arch Manning. Then Arch Manning can't be Tim Tebow yet. He might be, but he can't be right now.
Okay, I understand. I was going to criticize Feinbaum, but obviously Feinbaum's making somewhat of a rejection. He's not saying that the 10 games that Arch has played is the most impressive we've seen since Tim Tebow.
So Paul Feinbaum's a smart man, and he's done this for a bazillion years and done it very, very well. I think he understands the difference between saying is and I think he's going to be. That's clip, right? He said he is the best quarterback since Tim Tebow. I have a hard time with that specific sentence.
All right, we are not going to see eye to eye on this because, listen, I'm adjacent to the Manning family. We all talked about this. I'm kidding.
And you're the patron saint of backup quarterbacks. You should be begging for Arch to play, not saying stay on the bench.
Well, listen, they made
He's not Case Keenum.
They made this arrangement. We all know what happened here in Texas. Like Arch said, I'm going to sit here and then I'm going to come in at 21
and play 1 year,
kick butt. No, 2 years. That's the other thing. He ain't going pro.
Okay.
Because this has all been laid out for Arch from day one. Okay, coming up next. A WNBA star said something that really made me angry. I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to, like you are with Quinn Ewers and Arch Manning, I'm not going to hold back. I cannot stand this take from one of the most high-profile WNBA players. That's next. Maggie and Perloff Show.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. 3 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. .45 seconds remaining. .30 seconds remaining. .15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Welcome back, Maggie and Perloff Show. Andrew Bogusch in for Maggie. So we have a new star in the WNBA, besides Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese. I think it's Sophie Cunningham, who's become sort of this protector, Bogusch, for Caitlin Clark in a way. After there was a little scuffle, she took out a player. I didn't know that much about her before last month, but I guess she's trouble. She's trouble.
She's trouble, but I mean, put it in my veins. Let's go.
So
We
yesterday,
need this.
she was talking about WNBA expansion. WNBA expanded to Detroit, Cleveland, and my hometown of Philadelphia.
Really
Very exciting.
exotic locations.
Yeah, pretty exciting. Yeah, that's what Sophie said. She's not excited. Let's hear her take on what she wanted at a WNBA expansion.
You want to listen to your players too. Like, where do they want to play? Where are they going to get excited to play and draw fans? I do think that Miami would have been a great one. Like, everyone loves Florida. Nashville is an amazing city. Kansas City, amazing opportunity. There's a huge arena downtown that no one's using.
Okay. I guess that's implying that Those are better locations. She's from Missouri, by the way. That's where the KC thing came from. Let's hear more of what she thought of the new cities that did get teams.
I'm not so sure what the thought process is there. But at the end of the day, you also want to make sure that you're not expanding our league too fast. I think that's also another thing, that you don't want teams to totally dominate and then have teams that aren't. And so I just think that it's kind of a hard decision-making team or situation. But man, I don't know how excited people are to be going to Detroit or Cincinnati.
So, by the way, it was Cleveland, not Cincinnati. So she said Kansas City. She, again, from Missouri, I already, this is a joke, right? I mean, she can't be serious that Kansas City is a more bigger destination than Cleveland, Detroit,
yeah,
or
it's a little
Philadelphia.
hometown discount to get KC's.
Now, I get it. Yeah, she wants to go to Miami, but I think there's Detroit had a WNBA team and supported them very, very well, and I think it will support them even better. That's much more so than Miami might.
Yeah, I mean, Miami's is a hit or miss sports town. Miami, as a player, to live there destination-wise, I think I get that argument.
Yeah, but you don't say that as a pro athlete. You might
I
think
don't know. She's got a fan. You don't like it, I'll take it. I mean, she's loving the fact that she has kind of an open mic right now because she's gotten the immediate attention of becoming Caitlin Clark's protector. That got her a little extra. I mean, her social media follows went up a ton.
Yeah.
Her jersey sales spiked after all of that. And now she keeps giving good quotes about the league. And here's this one. And I'm, in general, maybe it's because I'm just a jaded New Yorker, I'm all about city-on-city crime. I've spent my life bashing Philadelphia, Boston, sweeping generalizations about people that you came, as I give you a disgusted look, where you came from, you and your kind.
But it's just
I'm all about this.
But do you not think Detroit?
I'm going to Cleveland on vacation.
I know the jokes about Detroit and Cleveland, but those are great American cities, great American sports towns.
No, it's not. There doesn't need to be logic or facts.
Well, I mean, it's kind of implied.
Just,
I'm an East Coaster. I'm better than you. You know, let's go to Miami. You know,
it's my
feels
city's
like
better
that.
than yours. It's a regional thing. And I'll be honest. Now,
if she had said, let's not put a team in L.A., would you say that same thing? It seems like an anti-Midwest take from her, and it seems like you're endorsing that.
I am endorsing taking, this is fun trash talk to me.
What's so good about Cleveland?
Talk. She's saying, people don't want to go. That didn't sound like, hey, let's start a rivalry. That was I don't want to live in Detroit.
Yeah, I don't want to live in Philadelphia.
She didn't say Philadelphia, by the way.
I
did.
Is
a massive.
I know.
It's very understandable, folks. Very understandable.
But I also...
That's a total misreading. She's saying, let's put a team in Miami where people want to live, not Detroit and Cleveland. It's not city-on-city crime. It's not like New York and Boston.
Well, she wants you to go to Kansas City. She wants you to go to her neighborhood.
But generally, she said those places, she implied those places aren't nice, and I want to go to Miami.
Well, if she's talking about... Because she did say, listen to your players. So... Do players want to live in Cleveland or Detroit versus Nashville and Miami? My first thought when that list came out was because I had heard, Portland wanted a team, and I think had just kind of redone.
They are, yeah. They will be getting an expansion team, Portland. I believe they'll start playing next season.
There's another city that was reviving their old name. Another of an
like
original
the Detroit Shock.
Detroit.
That the Shock were reinitiating. I think. Okay, so maybe I'm confusing it, but there have been other cities mentioned. And when Cleveland...
But you can't say this is city-on-city crime, hey, this is New York and Philadelphia rivalries. This was saying, I don't want to go to the Midwest. None of the players do. Send us somewhere sunny.
It's not a sexy list. It's not a list of pizzazz. Miami, if that list had come out and said Miami, Nashville, and... I don't know what the third... Yeah, sure, right. Or if there wasn't a team in Vegas, you'd be like, oh, okay, that's cashing in. It's going to be cool logos, cool colors. And clearly there is a push here to put these teams, back into where they're previously existing markets and also keeping them in line with NBA teams.
Previous announcements with the expansion, Toronto next season and Portland, Oregon
right, and the
season.
Toronto Tempo.
Yes,
they're
correct.
Be called.
So
right.
I just think that Detroit and Cleveland are big enough cities to sustain pro sports. We have proof. And obviously Cleveland could be the center of the NBA when LeBron was there. I don't know. Something strikes me as kind of elitist and weird about this take.
I'm very superficially supporting her here in just going out there and saying something about this is what I do. Like, I make fun of Philadelphia for a living. We make jokes about Philadelphia all the time.
But this is a totally different thing. This is saying like Detroit and Cleveland are not a nice places to live. You're not saying that about. You might be about.
I mean, I'd rather live in Miami than Cleveland or Detroit. Sure.
Yeah, I mean, but listen, like this is pro sports. Josh Allen is making the best of it as he can in Buffalo. Like,
right?
Yeah. Man up and make your city aware. It'd be great.
And she's living in Indianapolis right now, which I'm assuming would fall on the same list if it was she was in the same thing.
Yeah.
She's in a different team, and Indy was getting a new team.
Yeah, I thought this was so obviously tacky of her to say, and obviously I assume they'll boo her in these cities, which will be fun.
Yeah, good.
The city-on-city rivalry.
Good.
But she wasn't like starting a fun sports rivalry. This wasn't Michigan, Ohio State, or Duke, North Carolina. This was seriously criticizing those cities.
Yeah, she has a little more depth to her
And there was no
criticism than I normally do.
Yeah.
But and I don't know the inner workings of talking to the Players Association. Like, I don't know if the players have actually pushed for certain cities over other ones. I don't know if they're part of these conversations at all.
Like, for example, the NFL, Clay Matthews came out and opened up the draft and ripped Chicago. That was a fun rivalry. The WNBA has no sense of humor at all. There was not even a hint of a glint in her eye in that one. That was a logical takedown of two proud American cities.
If we remember this in 2029 when Cleveland is on the court and they boo her, they're good. Like, we need, like, the league does need this. They do still need entertainment value. They still need villains.
Do you think that's what she was trying to do, though?
Whether she was trying to do it or not, she is.
Yeah,
and the fact that she's not shying away from saying things that are controversial, mean, whatever, like, I think that's helpful.
I guess so. I mean, if you have to say something kind of nasty like that to get eyeballs, fine. I'm not into this at all. Honestly, like, I'm rooting against her hard now. I hope that she goes into Detroit and gets her shot blocked about 150 times. This is so dumb. And also, too, if WNBA wants to be a major sport, like, don't say that. That's not good. Like, the NFL is like great because it's in these 32 cities and everybody loves it. And you can have a team in Green Bay, Wisconsin, and it is the third most popular team in the league. Like, it's awesome, and everybody's into it. Like, this is I don't like what's going on there at all.
Right, but she's also not the first person to complain about
I've
cities and leagues.
I've never heard someone say we should expand to that city because it's not nice. I don't think I've ever heard someone say that.
I mean, you just got done telling me how people didn't like playing, that NBA players were crapping on Memphis. You said that in the first hour of the show, that players came out and said they didn't want to play, they didn't want to live in Memphis. She's doing the same thing.
They said we're scared in Memphis. That was kind of
okay. Well, I mean, what's the reasons are the reasons, but you had NBA players that you said an hour ago came to Stephen A's defense and said Memphis is not a good place. That's what she's doing right now.
Yeah, it's different. This is not cool. Like, honestly,
I don't think they're that different.
And
the only
honestly,
difference is the team in Memphis already exists. The Grizzlies are already there.
Yeah,
the NBA's not expanding there. But if a player can say an NBA
don't you
player
find
can
it great? Like, these guys are going to these like cities. Like, doesn't everybody think the NFL is so cool because they have a team in Buffalo and Green Bay? I think that's like one of the best parts of the league.
That's fine. Yeah.
Like, if WNBA wants to go to Miami just because people want to live there for the players, that's like how they're deciding where they expand. That seems ridiculous to me. Where do the people live, for one thing? Detroit and Cleveland are huge cities.
Right. The fan base certainly matters more than a handful of players' choice.
Yeah, but she wants a
codes.
warm weather city. Like, and the season's not even that long. Live in Miami for 8 months.
Right. But which is, I think, also a lot of players in your sweet NFL cities also leave when they don't have to be there.
No, the NFL season's pretty short, too. All right, let's get some headlines in real quick. CeeLo, what do you got?
All right, well, we're not sure what the folks in Milwaukee are thinking about what the Bucks were up to yesterday, which was signing Miles Turner to a 4-year deal, $107 million, after he, of course, reached the NBA Finals with the Pacers. But in order for Milwaukee to make that move, had to waive Dame Lillard, stretching the remaining 2 years on his deal to 5 years, meaning they'll pay $22.5 million per year to Lillard to cover the $113 million he was owed. He will now rehab his surgically repaired Achilles in Portland near family and choose his next destination on his own terms.
So it's like $50 million for that roster spot, by the way. Turner's salary plus the Lillard buyout.
It's a good way to think of it.
Yeah.
Hadn't considered it that way. That makes a little bit more sense.
Well, they would have been paying or they pay the Lillard money for him to rehab.
Yes.
So that it's not
it's weird. They
would have had to pay Lillard anyway.
Right. They have cash to spend, but then like the cap space is kind of the same. They're getting more players. They're getting more for their money, but they're not necessarily, and like they're saving some things, but not saving others.
Yeah, I mean, one thing I don't understand, what is Damian Lillard ever going to do in Milwaukee? Like, it's kind of over for him. I know 12 teams reached out to him or something, but he's 34. He turns 35 in July, and he's coming off an Achilles. Like, does he have a career left? Am I missing something completely?
You know what, Liza, and you don't think he'll play again?
I mean, he'll play, but he's not going to be the star. There's no way.
Probably not, no.
Yeah.
No.
I mean, he'll be like Chris Paul, a journeyman point guard.
Well, that's why it's nice to get paid that $113 million over time.
I mean, he
You don't know
wasn't
what's
making the
coming
Bucks
next.
a contender anyway, one way or the other. So I got from a logical standpoint, I like the Bucks move, and if it made Giannis mad, that's the only problem that I have. Like, as you said, like, kind of want to check in with that guy.
Yeah.
But that being said, like, at least you got Miles Turner. You're not getting anything from Lillard next year.
Yeah, agree.
He probably will be a Laker or a Knick, by the way. I feel like an injured old point guard, it's got Knick written all over it.
Well, he doesn't he miss being on the West Coast? So let's scratch the Knicks.
Yeah,
He'll
so
probably be a Laker though.
Laker, yeah, it feels like he could play for the minimum. He's already getting paid by the Bucks.
Very true. Baseball, the Pirates, I'm just going to say they really hate Paul Skeens. They entered last night on a 4-game winning streak. They had scored 9, 9, 12, and 7 runs during that stretch.
What happened?
In the 4 games since Skeens' last start. He entered last night with a 2.12 ERA, but a record of 4-7. So how'd the Pirates do from this time around? How about 0 runs of support across his 5 innings? No decision, and then Pittsburgh decided to score 1, which was enough to beat the Cardinals 1-0.
Oh my God!
So this goober apparently yesterday, people noticed, was out just hanging with the grounds crew before the game. So they went and asked him why, and he said, "Well, I want to cut grass and I'm done playing."
Skeens said this?
He was talking shop with the grounds crew about I
want to cut
He's
grass.
he's like, I'd love to, just cut some grass professionally after I'm done playing.
That's a man.
Professionally.
Yeah,
That's a man.
yeah. Just out there on a riding mower.
I mean, do
as
you need
Paul
to do
Skeens.
that professionally? Why not just do it at your own home?
Paul Skeens landscaping.
Hey, you know what, Livy? I get it. Can you imagine waking up on a Sunday, you just have your coffee in your hand, you just walk outside and you see your 6'5" boyfriend just cutting the lawn?
You guys ever had one of those tractor lawnmower things?
No.
You're all city kids.
Brock Purdy just got one, right? With his
Yeah.
new contract.
Yeah.
There's a picture floating around.
Manny, have you have a yard now?
A yard, bro.
No?
I don't even have a yardstick. What do you make me think I have a yard?
Or yard sale.
Last hour, he wouldn't go for the double Achilles blowout and then Tommy John surgery to pay his salary for the next 2 years because he didn't make enough money.
But you're up in the sticks.
I'm not. I'm in the suburbs. The sticks.
Yeah, you're in the suburbs. That's why I thought there maybe was grass to
I'm
cut somewhere.
10 minutes away from the Bronx. It's still
Yeah.
concrete. Yeah. I'm in southern Westchester.
People,
not
do you have
Connecticut.
a lawn?
Yes, I do. I don't have one of those riding mowers. I would love it, but especially when my landscaper blows up my lawn, basically.
Oh, you have a lawn?
Yeah.
Oh,
I
you
do.
got money.
Oh, my God.
Pete can keep his Achilles.
That's right.
All right, what else, CeeLo?
What else you got? In Toronto, the Blue Jays doing right by the home fans on Canada Day.
Swing and a high fly ball. Left center field and deep. Back to the wall. It is gone! Grand slam, George Springer.
Blue Jays radio, they were having a field day in those red jerseys. Springer 3 for 4, a couple of homers, 7 RBIs as Toronto roughed up Max Fried and the Yankees 12-5.
That was not fun.
No, it was not. We talk about being
I found it hilarious.
elitist East Coasters. Yes, not so much with the weather yesterday specifically as you had rainouts in D.C., Philadelphia, New York, and a suspended game in Boston.
And in Levittown, New York, too, for 11U Nassau Bolts baseball.
That's a tough one.
Yeah.
We had in central New Jersey some pretty intense summer rain and storms.
So you're
as
in
well.
Central New Jersey, so you have a yard.
I do.
Wow.
But I also live 50 miles away, so, pros and cons.
You'd think that all the baseball organizations that live within like a 25-mile radius of Citi Field would also cancel their games after the Mets did. But no, we played in Thunder and Lightning for a little bit yesterday.
Oh, you played?
We played like an inning and a half in a light drizzle, and then finally the Lightning was in the distance, was over us.
Oh, I love those.
And lit the whole thing up, and the umpire was like, okay, we can go home now.
With no drainage on the field.
As if we didn't see this coming. The Mets decided not to play at 4:30.
And they have a full grounds crew.
Right, and they have paying customers.
So what's the outcome? Did you guys win, lose, suspended, postponed?
I've not gotten a decision on whether we resume the game
what are
where
we doing
stopped.
with this league? Who runs this league?
It's called Hot Stove. If you want to look it up and send an email. Feel free. I think his name is Dennis.
Hot Stove.
Dennis Hot Stove.
End up sending.
I mean, what inning were we in here?
Bottom of the second. So not an official game.
Oh, no.
But in MLB, I think you pick that game up now. You don't restart it. So I don't know what we do.
Red Sox and Rays today. Or
Yeah.
Red Sox and Reds, I should say, will resume in the 4th in Fenway.
All right, there you go. Okay.
He's had enough.
That's definitely enough. Did you guys know that
this is Maggie's trick now.
Bogusch, did you know the NFL Top 100 is out?
I did not.
100 to 90? What do we got?
We've got 100 through 97 so far.
4 names.
We got 4 names to chew up. That's better than breaking down the Little League stats. I have all right, we're actually going to debate who should be at the top of this list, not the bottom 4, which actually is quite interesting. But Bogusch and I are going to give our thoughts on who's going to end up at the top of the NFL 100 list next. Maggie and Perloff.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. 45 seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Welcome back, Maggie and Perloff Show. We are going to do Mount Olympus of Toronto, 4 sports gods from every major sports city.
Finally, Canada.
Going north of the border. So you have to play music from Toronto, and that means the Holy Triumvirate, of course. Rush from Toronto, right?
Yes.
So I'm not sure Pete, who's sitting in the chair today, is aware of the music tie-ins. I don't know who the other great Toronto bands are. They love the band Tragically Hip. Is a massive band in Canada. I think the lead singer died recently.
Familiar with the work of Drake?
Yeah, Drake, of course. Well, I don't know if we want to be associated with that particular musical artist on this show.
Why is that?
I don't know. I feel like EJ's a massive Kendrick Lamar fan.
Drake, listen, Drake had some bops back in the 2010s, all right?
Oh,
Also,
no, listen.
The
But you
Weeknd-
know what I'm talking
You're
about,
familiar
Manny.
with The Weeknd as well, right? Also from Toronto.
Oh, is the Weeknd from Toronto?
Oh, yeah,
Actually, I
from
didn't know.
Scarborough, Ontario. Yeah, right outside of
Did
Toronto.
not know
Part
that.
of the GTA. That's right.
Did you know the Weeknd from
I did
Toronto?
not. I did not.
I know
know.
Drake,
yeah.
obviously.
Oh, yeah, no, yeah.
Okay. First, we have huge news. We got the NFL Top 100 list, 100 to 97. That's all you got for me, Manny?
Blame Goodell. Don't yell
You got
at me.
Vlad
Bunch of
McConkey,
kickers.
Leonard Williams, Aaron Jones, and Drake London. Okay, Maggie and I argue about this a lot. Me and EJ were getting into it a little bit earlier. I feel like if I got to do the top 100, like the top 5 is so easy. And it's got to be, last year, Tyreek Hill was number 1.
Yeah.
I get it. He's probably a god amongst the NFL players because he's so fast and he's so talented. But I go quarterback. Except this year, I'm going to replace my 5th spot with a running back. I'm telling you right now, and I'm not getting off this the entire time this list is out. I'm going Mahomes 1, Lamar Jackson 2, Josh Allen 3, Joe Burrow 4, then Saquon is the first non-quarterback. Any problem with that? How would you do the top of your NFL 100 list?
I mean, I have no problem with it because it's logical, but these lists are usually not logical. They're a little popularity contests.
Voted on by players,
right.
I believe.
So mine looks a little bit different. I will start with Lamar. I still think that this is about players who think other players are cool, guys they want to play with, guys who they like watching. So Lamar is number 1.
Don't you have a problem, though, not having Patrick Mahomes number 1 because nobody's beat him yet? Except for the Eagles?
Did you do that on purpose?
No, but you know what I mean. Like, I know Lamar Jackson's numbers are ridiculous, and same with Josh Allen. But I just feel it's weird that to put anybody in a list over Patrick Mahomes.
Well, it's also then he should win MVP every year.
But he's been falling back, and like his numbers are pedestrian. But to me, I guess I'm a ring culture guy. Until they knock him off in the AFC, I have trouble putting Lamar or Josh ahead of him.
So I've got Lamar 1 and Mahomes 3. I've got Justin Jefferson, who loves to be at the top of this list, at number 2.
He's not even the best LSU receiver in the NFL.
Then I got your boy Saquon, recency bias, at number 4. And then they need a defensive player because they like to sneak the defensive player in this top 8, top 10.
Yeah. But
Pat Surtain, the second, number 5.
Oh, my God.
Oh, Perloff hates you.
Yeah. I mean, last year's list was wacky.
Then shutdown corner has become irrelevant
Christian
in the NFL.
McCaffrey was number 3 last year on this list.
I was asking your top 5, not how you think it'll be voted on. Is that your top 5 players?
Oh, no, I was predicting who was going to be the top.
Oh, man.
My
Why
top
did we have a
5?
pre-production meeting on this? I'm asking who your top is. How would you do it?
I mean,
those are good picks. I think
have
Saquon could be 1 this year.
I'd have to go like 8 quarterbacks to start for sure.
So why don't the players do that? Why did they put Tyreek Hill number 1 last year?
This is a different. I think there's also this. If you're talking about value, you need a lot of quarterbacks to start. But if you're just talking about who plays his position the best, it doesn't need to always be quarterbacks.
if we're going to bet, how I think it goes. I think Saquon and Lamar are 1-2. I think that Jamar Chase actually moves over Justin Jefferson because he's unbelievable. It's hard for a defensive player this year. Last year, we couldn't even hand out the defensive player of the year.
Yeah.
It was hard because the TJ Watts and the Myles Garretts and the Nick Bosa's all had down years.
Right. But also, like, to the point, like, Myles Garrett is maybe not the top 5 valuable player, but he might play his position better than a top quarterback plays his position.
Yeah, but it's tough. Dude won 4 games
I know.
last year. That's, there's a lot to talk about there. But we got to get into our Mount Olympus. 4 sports gods. We go north of the border, eh? Eh? Anyone? Maggie Perloff Show.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining.
I'll just read them as if there are, and I can go back. Okay, right.
Maggie and Perloff on the Infinity Sports Network.
Welcome back, Maggie and Perloff Show. Andrew Bogusch sitting in for Maggie Gray. We're trying to figure out what's happening with Giannis in Milwaukee. Not easy. Bucks cut Damian Lillard, stretch out his salary, and sign Pacers big man Miles Turner. I saw it as an immediate win for the Bucks. Then we hear that Giannis might not be happy. A report from Yahoo's Chris Haynes and a cryptic tweet from Giannis saying what's going on here in the NBA seems a bit messier than it should be. And then I was watching a lot of ESPN. Shams Charania has been on TV for about 20 straight hours. He said that Giannis is going to sit and wait and evaluate what the Bucks are going to do to win a championship. Folks, what are we doing here in the NBA? What is Giannis? He's going to sit and wait and see if Kyle Kuzma practices hard this offseason?
Well, yeah, that's a fair question because even though the offseason just began, it's kind of over now for Milwaukee. They don't, they used their savings from Lillard on Miles Turner. They probably still need another guard or two. They traded Pat Connaughton too yesterday to open up more cap space to make this all work. They re-signed Kevin Porter Jr., Gary Trent Jr., and another non-junior, plus Bobby Portis, and you mentioned Kuzma. It's an oddly big, forward-laden roster all of a sudden, so they need some more backcourt depth. But that's not them going out and signing another Damian Lillard. It's not going to be I don't think it's going to be a high-end, big-name person. It's going to be a useful player, but not this big, splashy move. So what else does Giannis want to see here?
Well, ESPN's Bobby Marks floated, sort of the personnel guy, floated Chris Paul as a possible addition. That makes a lot of sense.
Okay.
He's out there, I believe. You're really not going to be able to get a young star point guard. You need a guard.
Right. They're not trading for Bradley Beal or something wacko like that.
Yeah, who's not really even a point. He's more of a shooter, right? So they're going to have to take. Paul makes perfect sense. I got to be honest. The second he said that, I'm like, oh yeah, that would fit well.
And he played all 82 games for the Spurs this year.
I know. So I think the Bucks have a little more work to do here. But we have some work because we're going to get into Maggie and Perloff's Mount Olympus of Toronto.
It's time to feast your ears on Maggie and Perloff's Mount Olympus.
All right, so we've been doing Mount Olympus for almost a month now, and I've been dominating the polls lately. You can go to X and vote on who had a better Mount Rushmore, Maggie or I. It feels like in the building, Maggie's taking a lot of heat for her choices. I'm confident that she's going to do okay in Toronto.
Okay.
Oh, boy. Well, Maggie's not here. She's on vacation. Bogusch is sitting in. I have my four, but why don't you get us started with Maggie Gray's Mount Rushmore, 4 sports gods from Toronto?
Well, the immediate headline here from this foursome, without naming names, is Maggie did not include a Toronto Raptor, which I did not think was possible.
That's what...
You've got Vince Carter, you've got Kyle Lowry. You could probably make a Tracy McGrady argument if you wanted to.
I'm well aware of who the Toronto Raptors
are. None of those gentlemen appear in Maggie's foursome. So let me begin with hockey. It makes sense. It's Toronto. It's Canada. You have to have a Maple Leaf.
It makes sense except for that franchise, but go ahead.
Right. It's an odd list of candidates to be the Maple Leaf representative on this list. Maggie goes with the guy that would have been my choice as well, Mats Sundin, a tremendous player, all-time leading still franchise history in goals and points. Swede, big, strong, physical player, great leader, great hockey player. So Maggie's got Mats Sundin. Now we dip our toes in the baseball waters. Which Toronto Blue Jay makes an appearance? Well, we've got 2 from Maggie. One of them's on the infield, Robbie Alomar. Sure. Silky smooth defender.
Yeah.
Excellent hitter. Debatable the short choices on the field with umpires at one point in his career. But Robbie Alomar, a very worthy...
was Baltimore.
That's true.
Yeah, that was Baltimore. And also, too, I don't think we're going to hold that against Robbie Alomar right today.
Did it happen in Toronto, though?
I think it did.
It did,
Oh, it
right?
did? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got Sundin, we've got Robbie Alomar, we've got another Blue Jay.
So far, so good, by the way.
Not bad. Another Blue Jay in Dave Stieb. Now, Manny didn't know how to pronounce his last name, which is kind of the point here.
Wait, what are the alternate ways to
What did I say?
pronounce that?
First of all, You didn't even say Dave. You went just last name as if he was Madonna.
Well,
or
I
like
mean,
a
that's all
one-name.
that Maggie gave me.
And I think you said Stieb.
I definitely did. I think I said Steve. What's his name?
Dave Stieb. Stieb.
Yeah, no, it was a rough moment for
Yeah.
me.
Now, you may laugh at Manny's pronunciation.
It could be an Eastern European basketball player, Stieb.
That's what I'm saying. I think that's what I said, Stieb.
But there are some people who say Dave Stieb was the best pitcher in the American League in the 80s. In the
What?
80s.
Who says that?
People.
I'd like to meet those
Tim
people.
Kirchin's dad.
I mean, maybe he was, and I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I never heard a casual conversation at the water cooler.
Yeah.
Hey, who do you think the best AL pitcher of the 80s was?
Yeah,
Got to be Dave Stieb.
Wasn't Roger Clemens in the American League in the 80s?
Yeah, but he was early Clemens. Yeah, early
Oh, yeah.
Clemens.
Yeah, that
We're
was
talking
pretty
the
good.
entire 10 years of the decade. So now we're on Sundin, Robbie Alomar, and Dave Stieb. And now, here we go.
Actually, not so bad so far. I have no real major problems.
Okay, but again, I will say this, that number 4 is not a Raptor. It is not a Canadian Football League legend. It is not an individual athlete like a tennis player or a track athlete that was born in Toronto.
Wait, okay. Oh, is it a broadcaster?
It's
That's
not
okay.
Pete's good friend Joey Votto, who is from Toronto, but is a Reds legend.
Wait, I
Jack-
could guess.
I don't think you can guess this one.
Is it a hockey broadcaster?
It is not a hockey broadcaster. It's a hockey player.
Oh, so it's not Don Cherry.
It is not Don Cherry.
What? Okay.
It is a Maple Leaf who is...
Oh, is it Austin Matthews?
Who is more well known for his off-ice exploits.
A Toronto Maple Leaf. Oh, who?
Maggie's fourth choice for her Toronto Mount Olympus, as Manny drinks an iced coffee that's not from this restaurant. Maggie's fourth choice is the Tim Horton.
Timmy Ho.
Because Tim Horton was, and I didn't realize this, a phenomenal hockey player. Multiple Stanley Cups with
I
the
didn't know
Leafs in
that
the
either.
60s. I believe he is on, let me just pull this up and make sure. He is on the NHL's 100 greatest NHL players in 2017. He was named one of the league's top 100 players of all time. And of course, the restaurant is his. Timbits.
Did not know any of
Canadian
that.
Dunkin' Donuts.
Did
Tim
not
Horton.
know.
I love me a nice little
That's
double-double from Timmy Ho.
Fascinating
So
choice.
there you go. Matt Sundin, Robbie Alomar, Dave Stieb, and Tim Horton.
Okay.
I believe that's pronounced
Tim Horton is
T-I-M,
cool.
by the way.
I'm going to give major props to Maggie because I love Tim Hortons. I was in Montreal a couple years ago. It's quality place. No problem with that. That's a fun choice. Not putting Vince Carter on there is out of control, ridiculous. I have a good friend, my good buddy Dan O'Toole, formerly of Fox Sports 1.
I love him.
He said, who's the first person you put on your list? He's like, well, you got to have Vince Carter, then you decide the other three. How could Maggie not put VC, half man, half amazing on there?
Because she's Maggie. I need... Does anybody have a Dr. Rock of heads that we can... I need someone to shrink Maggie and her thought process.
That's called a therapist.
Her selection process for this competition.
So I obviously started out with Vince Carter. Then I stuck on the Carter theme. I put Joe Carter. Wasn't there that long, but for the home run.
The home run.
I mean, Joe Carter actually was the first one to pop in my head. The home run. We never found the ball, by the way. Beat the Phillies in the 93 World Series. Also a great player. And I'm going to just tell you right now, Robbie Alomar, who came along, I think, in the Joe Carter trade, incredible fielder. I have this stat on him. He's a second baseman, which is a very important position. Set an AL record for second baseman, 104 games without an error one season. Every year he was in Toronto, was an all-star and won the Gold Glove. And back then, second basemen were not sluggers. Not that they're sluggers now, but this was sort of pre-Robinson Cano. This was rare to get a lot of hitting out of your second baseman, especially if you could field like that. So it was early 90s. It was hard because there were a lot of, listen, Crime Dog Fred McGriff wasn't there. He was in Toronto too, right? He was, they had a lot of guys who came and went. Dave Winfield, I believe, right?
Well, they're big. I mean, Carlos Delgado, who was a great Met, is a beloved Blue Jay, too.
Yeah. So there are a lot of guys, too.
Speaking of Alomar,
Halladay also?
Yeah. Speaking of Alomar,
Halladay, but he was not there long at all.
No. I can still remember my grandfather coming to find me to say that the Mets traded David Cohn to the Blue Jays for their second baseman. And I thought he meant Robbie Alomar. He meant Jeff Kent, which ended up not being that bad.
Yeah.
but I was a little disappointed that we weren't getting Robbie Alomar as a Met in 1992.
And then I went with Sundin fourth. Now, Bugs, you know a lot more hockey than me. Is that really a no-brainer? I did some research that it's Sundin. Who are the other big Maple Leafs besides Tim Horton that might have gotten consideration?
I think Darryl Sittler comes up a lot. I would have thought Wendell Clark, but then when I was Googling Toronto sports Mount Olympus, Wendell did not make a lot of those lists. Sittler and Sundin did. Sundin seems pretty unanimous.
Yeah.
And it's just a weird thing. You mentioned this, we were talking off the air last night. For the Leafs, a historical franchise in the NHL, it's a weird, almost like by default, Matt Sundin. Not it's Stevie Yzerman, it's Gordie Howe, or you're not debating Lemieux or Crosby. It's like, I guess I'll take Sundin, and it's the Maple Leafs.
Right. I do think Wendell Clark was there a long time. He's like kind of like, we have these guys, we're calling him Mr. Whatever City. Wendell Clark was a big part of that team. So he makes some consideration too. We want to hear from you. Who should be the 4 sports gods from Toronto, Canada? 888-710-4ISN. 888-710-4476. Blue Jays, I wanted to put a bunch of Blue Jays on there because they've been there, I think, the longest of the American pro sports teams. Obviously, hockey. I'm sorry. The Maple Leafs have been there forever. But I feel like the Blue Jays deserved a lot of love. The Maple Leafs you had to have. You do have to put the Raptors. I know they're an expansion team, but look at how many great basketball players have come out of Canada. I think in large part because Toronto got really good right around the turn of the century. Vince Carter lost in the Eastern Conference Finals to my Philadelphia 76ers. One of the most entertaining players ever. And now we have 10 impactful NBA stars out of Canada. That's because of the Raptors.
Yep. And I'm sure we're missing an Argonaut.
There are a lot of guys from Toronto.
Yeah.
I think Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is from Toronto, right? We always say, they're just Canadian and not know any details out of that.
I Googled that too yesterday, and Shea didn't come up, but Nembhard did from the Pacers. Also, that's how I got the Joey Votto.
Well, from Toronto. Well, Shai Gilgeous was born in Toronto. He did have some time in high school in Hamilton, Ontario, which is still part of the GTA, but a little bit further away from Toronto, a little bit closer to Buffalo.
But you lived in Buffalo. Are you familiar with all these areas, Manny?
I mean, for Southern Ontario, yeah. I mean, I've spent a night or two in Niagara Falls, Ontario.
I mean, you have
St.
to,
Catharines,
because that's an 18 drinking age. You got to cross that border.
No, actually,
No?
The legal drinking age of 18 is in Quebec. In Ontario, it's 19.
Because my wife, and other friends that went to school in Boston, they would often go to Montreal because you could drink. Now, you don't think that's not like a night trip, but it was like a designed thing.
High school. We used to drive on spring break when I was 17 or 16 to Montreal because you could drink. It was 18. And then obviously all these young kids go to a certain club on St. Catherine Street in Montreal. It's one of the most famous burlesque clubs in the world.
Okay.
But yeah, you guys, have anyone been?
Here we go. Not Pete.
It's called Club Super Sex. It's like, it's a tourist trap.
So they're not hiding it.
Honestly, no. It's like, you could get T-shirts. Like, it's so famous. It's gone way beyond. Like, it's not dirty even.
Club Boobies seems too on the nose. Let's go with Club Super Sex.
Yeah,
okay,
it's like,
that's safer.
It's a very famous, I think it's still there. It's a very famous, Montreal has more burlesque houses than any city in the world, I think, per capita. Did you guys know that?
I did not.
Yeah, it's like a European tradition. Yeah, all right. Give us a call at 888-710-4ISN, 888-710-4476. We want to hear your Toronto sports gods. We also have something really fun coming up. Pete Pilotti's going to give his Mount Olympus of pro wrestlers. You can weigh in on that, too. Give us a call because that is going to be, I know that's a lot for Wednesday of July 4th week, and it's going to be controversial, but I can't wait to hear that.
Sensory overload.
That's coming up next. Maggie and Perloff Show.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 4 minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Welcome back, Maggie and Perloff Show. We're doing the Mount Olympus of Toronto sports gods, believe it or not. We haven't done any in Canada yet. I was tempted to just do all of Canada, just get a little Gretzky in there. Of course, he's from Brantford, Canada.
Yes.
I'm looking at a list, the most famous Canadian athletes of all time ranked. Obviously, Gretzky's one. Can you guess number 2, Bogues?
It's not Messier. I'm going to say it's like, it's Tim Horton.
No, it's not Tim Horton, who Maggie had on Toronto. It is Gordie Howe, who Maggie decided not to put on her Detroit Mount Olympus.
Mr. Hockey.
Then it goes Bobby Orr, Mario Lemieux. Let's see what we get the first time. Someone named Nancy Green. Why am I not knowing this? She must be a gold medal skier. Yes, she's a skier. You know Nancy Green's work?
Pass.
Donovan Bailey, the sprinter.
Oh, okay.
That's a pretty good one.
Yeah.
Clara Hughes, the speed skater. Maurice Richard. Then a bunch of French-Canadian hockey players. I'm trying to get to an NBA player, and I got no one on this list. Oh, here we go.
RJ
Number
Barrett.
12. Most famous Canadian athlete is not from Toronto. It's from the West Coast. Can you guess who it is?
Steve Nash.
Steve Nash. I would love to do a Canada Mount Olympus, but it'd probably be all hockey. Sidney Crosby's 13. I mean, that's pretty good. Fergie Jenkins, Canadian. Probably did not know that.
From Toronto.
Yes. Oh, Bobby Hall, obviously. I didn't put, tomorrow's St. Louis. And I'm already going to lose that one because I didn't put Brett Hall on there. Mark Messier, 16, Bogues.
I'll take a top 20.
Patrick Roy, who made Maggie's Colorado Mount Olympus somehow. Larry Walker.
Okay.
Larry Walker is a good one. Martin Brodeur, and a soccer player named Alphonso Davies. Let's go to the phone lines.
Yeah.
Mike in
Familiar with his
Syracuse.
work.
Who did we leave off our Mount Olympus for Toronto sports gods?
Well, geez. I think if you guys are looking from outside, I guess you could add those other sports. But if you're inside, man, it's like Maple Leafs. I mean, they die every year when the Maple Leafs get eliminated. So, I mean, just Sundin is, a really great story, captain of a team that was really horrible through some horrible years. So you've actually got to go a ways back to really, 1967. I'm pretty sure I wasn't born then. You guys weren't born yet. But those historical names of Dave Kean, Johnny Bauer, Frank Mahavlich, I mean, those are the names that are the actual gods in that town.
Sorry, Mike, I don't mean to sound ignorant, but we all know a lot of old hockey names. Like those names are they well known by modern hockey fans?
Well, the one guy is who played a game with a broken leg, right, Mike?
Yeah, Mahavlich.
Yeah, that's the one I knew. But
you know what? That might also have been his brother too, because the two brothers played together. I forget which one it was.
But Mike, what about Dave Stieb, who was the best AL pitcher of the '80s? By the way, Roger Clemens started in '84 and won a bunch of Cy Youngs.
Dave Stieb was like the most unhittable. He was like the Caden Kershaw of that era. And that was always the big debate. Should he be in the Hall of Fame because he was unhittable.
I don't know. I'm looking at his stats. It seemed like a couple guys got to him. He's not
just for a brief period of time. He was the premier pitcher.
Yeah.
But,
I don't even have him winning a Cy Young.
If I had to go with a well-rounded one, I would go with the Carter brothers.
Yeah.
Vince and Joe.
Yeah.
And I would actually put on Dave Keon and Johnny Bauer. Because Johnny Bauer revolutionized the sport of goaltending. He's the one that introduced the poke check.
Oh, love it. All right. Thank you, Mike. Good choices. Let's go to PJ in Atlanta. PJ, who should we put on our Toronto Mount Olympus as sports gods?
Yeah, you got to put on Donovan Bailey. He blew what's his name's knee out in the '96 Olympics. He's got to be on there. He was fast as ish.
Okay, I can live with that. That's the only one that you would add. What do you think about Maggie not putting Vince Carter?
You got Vince Carter, Joe Carter, Donovan Bailey, and Stieb. Stieb was nice. He was like Scott McGregor or Mike Flanagan back in the day. Couldn't touch him.
But those guys aren't sports gods.
Yeah, they are, because they're on the list.
No, nobody put those guys on the Baltimore Sports Mount Olympus.
Well, that's because there's more choices.
You're a Phillies fan. Are you going to put Bake McBride on there?
No, that's what I'm saying. We're talking this Mount Olympus, PJ. This is the highest of the high. I'm sorry, Dave Stieb didn't even win a Cy Young.
But you didn't know who he was.
Who cares?
Of course, I know who Dave Stieb was.
But no, but the point is also, I thought in understanding this is it's not just about resume. It's about the fan connection. and the love of the city for a
PJ,
guy.
are you in Toronto?
No, I'm in
So how
Atlanta.
do you know any more about the fan connection than me or Bogues?
Because I'm older than you are.
Okay. Dave Steve was good, but honestly, like that team didn't win anything.
But if you again in our defense and the Stieb defense as well.
Our defense. Now you're on Camp Steve too?
Yeah, I mean, well, I was the one that said some people think he was one of the best pitchers of the '80s, and you laughed at that. But if you Google,
You said the best.
no, I said one of the best. So
He was one of the best.
Yeah,
he was very, 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 very good.
In the American, this is our old friend AI overview at Google. In the American League during the 80s, Jack Morris and Dave Stieb were consistently among the top pitchers, with Morris leading in wins and Stieb excelling in value metrics like ERA and WAR. Dave Stieb was legit.
Yeah, he was a beast, dude. I think he had maybe 2 1-hitters. He should have had 2 no-hitters and got busted right in the 9th inning back in the day, maybe against Milwaukee or Minnesota. He was a dog. Dude.
Well, the thing is, though, PJ, for real, like not about age or anything, but that team didn't win. You know, like I think you have to, like if you have a title-winning team on the list.
The Phillies didn't win till Pete Rose got there. So
No, I'm just saying, yeah, that's why the guys before the Phillies did not make your Mount Olympus. The early '90s Blue Jays won World Series, so I think those guys get an edge to me.
Are you going to take?
I mean, Steve was on that team.
Are you going to take Dave Stieb or Tug McGraw?
So I'm taking Tugger all day long. But that being said, Tug McGraw is not on anybody's Philadelphia Mount Olympus. I'm not saying Steve's not close, but I'm just saying, like, you guys are making him out like he's like Steve Carlton. He was not.
No, but
well, Steve Carlton was an ass. And don't say but when you make an argument.
All right, thank you, PJ. I guess Camp Steve is like a big deal now. Like everybody, like I was at the water cooler the other day and everyone was saying, man, do you remember when Steve would throw a slider at 2-1? Guy was impossible to hit.
When was the last time you read a Robbie Alomar water cooler conversation?
Whatever. Okay, I know all you guys. I know you guys all Googled like Mount Olympuses of Toronto sports and saw Dave Steve's name on there. But trust me, nobody cares about Dave Steve.
Okay, so
and I've said it before, and I'll say it many times.
So again,
nobody cares about Dave Steve.
So we did research and went and found people who live in Toronto who know Toronto sports and said Dave Steve's an actual candidate for this.
No, he's definitely a candidate.
Okay.
I probably had him 5th on my list. I don't even know what we're arguing over.
So then leave us alone. You're the one arguing, not us.
But to say he was, I thought, and I want everyone to check the tape on this, I thought you said he was considered the best pitcher in the American League in the 80s. Not one of the best, but yeah, he was definitely one of the best.
Well, is there a difference in getting him on as the Blue Jays rep in this exercise?
Why are you so angry about Dave Steve? What is going on with you
I'm
today,
not
Bo?
angry. You're angry.
Sounds like I feel like you're yelling at me about Dave Steve.
Guys, who's the angry one in this?
I'm mad about Dave Stieb. Forget Steve.
I believe it was Stieb.
Yeah.
PJ was definitely mad about Dave Steve.
PJ was worked up, and then you were worked up.
I don't know. I feel like your eyes are like saucers right now. I feel like you're really upset about Dave Steve not being on my list.
There's only one way to settle this.
CeeLo, am I making this up?
I think you're both a little got a lather going.
I'll accept
What did you
that.
say about Bogusch's eyes just now?
I don't know. I felt like he was staring me down just a second ago.
I forget what the phrasing
Well, you
just
pulled
used
the
was.
Dave Steve water cooler reference out, and then when I said, how about the Alomar one, you changed the subject.
Yeah, I believe what he said was
Robbie
whatever.
Alomar. I mean, listen, everyone knows Robbie Alomar. Nobody knows Dave Steve. Dave Steve, those Blue Jays teams were beyond irrelevant.
And because he was good, people loved him in Toronto.
They might have loved him in Toronto. I'm just saying Dave Steve is certainly not part of the canon of baseball players we talk about.
I will say this for perspective. We talk about no Cy Youngs for Dave Steve.
Yeah.
Nolan Ryan didn't have one either.
Well, I mean, really, like they're 1A and 1B of the non. Yeah, Nolan Ryan. Yeah, we talk about Nolan Ryan.
Just saying like that great pitchers have not won Cy Youngs.
We're also not doing the best pitchers of all time. Right. We're doing Dave Steve in Toronto.
Okay. I was looking at his bio right here. This is how sad this is.
Oh, gosh. But again, I'm arguing this. I'm worked up.
This is how sad it is. Dave Steve, Hall of Fame. I'm like, that's awesome.
Canadian Hall of Fame.
Then I read the little caveat. Canadian Baseball Hall of Fame. Eh? Canadian Baseball Hall of Fame.
No. So
the headline, the subhead is these guys weren't good enough at hockey and had to play baseball.
Oh,
that's
be
true.
Nice. Be nice. Play nice, y'all.
That's probably true.
We got to get, I think he passed, but Geddy Lee was the ultimate Blue. He was Blue Jays or Expos? Which team did he? He was a massive, the lead singer of Rush was a massive baseball fan. It could have helped us out with this. I'm not saying Dave Stieb is a bad choice by any means, but I am not going to sit here and pretend like he's a household name. That's all I'm saying.
But he is in Toronto, which is the point of this exercise.
You think he's more famous in Toronto than Robbie Alomar?
I think of a certain age demographic of Blue Jays fans, yes.
Oh my God, I can't believe you're getting so worked up about this.
I love that you're discounting what the folks of Toronto think. Like that's the whole. It's a regional metropolis thing. No.
Yeah, Dave seems fine, but even in Toronto, like people don't get excited. I talked to a couple of Torontoans about this, and they were not like so excited about Dave Stieb. They're like, "Well, I'd put Wendell Clark on there, but I guess you could put Dave Stieb."
Were they excited about Robbie Alomar?
No, they were excited. They said Vince Carter has got to be the one on there, and Vince Sundin. Then you're sort of trying to fill out this Mount Rushmore,
right? Which is why we get to Dave Stieb, who you can't accept.
But yet he has him as his number 5. Yeah, like
honestly,
just on the outside.
But the way you're arguing about it, I feel like you should have
I'm not arguing. You've been talking
He's more
about
interested in Tiafo up here.
You've
on the
been
TV,
tearing apart Dave Stieb for the last 7 minutes. I'm just sitting here.
What? Am I going crazy right here? Did Bogusch just yell at me right there?
Because
not about like the actual argument, about the idea that you're accusing him of being angry about the non-existent argument.
That didn't sound angry?
Because I'm angry at your accusations that are false about me and my performance in the last 8 minutes of this show.
He's defending his honor. He's not defending Dave Stieb.
Yeah.
I'm so confused here. We're just trying to get 4 sports dudes from Toronto. It's not that complicated.
And you keep wiping them off the list.
Can I ask a question also? And this is, I admit, I'm riding in from the outside here, and this is probably a dumb question. And I know you guys have been doing this for a while. When did we switch from Rushmore to Olympus?
You should see yourself out.
I'm serious. I don't know the answer to that. I should see myself out? All right, I guess
No. It was just trying to spit on it. Just be different.
Okay.
The problem is I pointed out that there's 12 gods on Mount Olympus technically. So we could have gone 12, but we could never get to 12 in Toronto. I mean, can you imagine who we would have had on Toronto?
John Tavares. Yeah. Everyone on the Maple Leafs from the last 5 years that came up short, pretty much. Yeah.
He's actually bright red and raised his voice, and I'm the angry one? What?
I think he's working on the summer tan.
I think it's a friendly
He's wearing
debate.
a red shirt as well. So
I think I'm driving him crazy because I'm not giving him enough Dave Stieb.
No, you're driving me crazy because you talked for 95% of the previous 7 minutes about why Dave Stieb sucks. Told us we were all wrong, and then you told me that I was mad about it.
And also that he was number 5 on your list. He's like the first alternate to your Toronto Mount Olympus.
Right, if number 4 can't fulfill his duties,
right,
Dave Stieb steps into yours.
Number 4, is going to sit out the All-Star break.
This is honestly
Stieb's up next.
Well, I'm glad because usually when Maggie has a bad take, I just put out a poll on it and I win it like 90-10. Now I'm going to win this one 90-10 over Bogusch, which would be like, okay.
Who was angrier in the last 10 minutes?
Yeah. So at least I'll have the poll. I mean, is there any doubt I'm getting the W in this one?
If that's what you need to get through the day, you can have it.
Well, I just sometimes I feel like
Seal, that's all
just
I
because
need.
I'm not the loudest person in this room, like people think, oh, you lost that argument. But generally, like there's some bad takes coming from that seat. Like yesterday when EJ said that the Clippers are more relevant than the Rockets, I was like, what are we doing? And then he yelled at me for about 10 minutes about why the Clippers were more relevant for the Rockets. I was like, what? Are you out of your mind? And then we put up a poll. It was like 103% to -3%.
Minus. I think we should try an experiment here.
EJ lost points.
And
you
should swap seats.
Yes.
And see if it's the seat or the humans that sit in that seat.
Well, Bogusch, you didn't really have to defend Maggie's list, by the way. You didn't have to take a side here. You could have commented on it as well and offered your own Toronto athletes.
I mean, Dave Stieb was 100% in play for me.
I mean, you just said in play. So he's not even like a surefire one.
No,
You're like, well, I would have considered Dave Stieb.
It was either Dave Stieb or Joe Carter as a Blue Jay for me.
Got
I would not have had Alomar. I would have not had Tim Horton. I would have had Sundin and a Blue Jay and Vince Carter, and then either the other Blue Jay or maybe Kyle Lowry.
Daryl Sittler?
No Sittler. He got cut.
Well, who's the other Blue Jay? The other Blue Jay.
Yeah, it was either Stieb or Carter or both of them.
Yeah, honestly, I just went with Robbie Alomar because I know he's 25 times more famous than... Everyone knows who Robbie Alomar is if you're a baseball fan.
Yeah, not just for what he did in Toronto, though.
Right.
Yeah, no. But I went with just like, I wanted to win the poll, so I put the more recognizable name.
I recognize that name.
The actual Hall of Famer.
So we're changing the exercise then.
No. Listen, I wanted to win the poll, CeeLo. So, of course. And Robbie Alomar was, by the way, awesome in Toronto, too. So so there's nothing wrong with that choice. And I actually do have a valid argument. If you win a ring, I think you get more consideration in Mount Olympus. I really, and I've done that throughout this whole thing. And Maggie is not as much. So that I think is a valid sports argument.
Yeah, and I also but there are franchises that haven't won enough.
Yeah, like the Raptors and the Maple Leafs.
You can't just disqualify the whole group of those athletes because they didn't win titles.
Yeah, I hear you, but if you're going to take Blue Jays, I would take them off the championship team. But that's me. Go ahead, CeeLo.
Okay.
Updates.
Yes, very good. I wouldn't have expected to talk so much about Darren Waller this morning, but there's not a ton going on, and he is coming out of retirement after 1 year to join the Dolphins, who just traded fellow tight end Jonnu Smith to the Steelers Monday. So Waller was on the Giants reserve list, and I did miss this in the first hour that Miami is sending a 6th-round pick to the Giants, plus they get Waller in a conditional 7th. There you go, Bogusch. So it's a swap of late-round picks.
5th
you were
and
wondering
7th.
how the heck? Well, 6th and a conditional 7th. But Bogusch was like, why do the Giants have any leverage here? They really didn't. I mean, conditional 7th for a 6th. It's kind of almost like we'll throw you a pick, you throw us a pick. It's kind of irrelevant, meaningless.
By the way, I know you guys probably as Giants fans have mixed feelings about this. If he makes a team and starts, aren't you really curious what Darren Waller will do? He's 32. He was amazing at his peak.
Yeah, I think my problem today is that he's their starting tight end right now. That's
it's an odd situation.
Yeah, it's one thing to take a Darren Waller flyer. It's another to have him be the number one guy in their depth chart right now at that position. And Jonnu Smith caught 80-plus passes last year. Mm-hmm. So they threw the ball to that position. So it seems to have importance in their scheme. And yes, the history of the idea of Darren Waller is nice, but the current state of him is a weird thing to have at tight end.
It's a $5 million contract. It's a flyer. I mean, this is, and you say he's a starter. I'm not sure they're done at that position.
Yeah, I know they had mentioned what's his name, the other tight end in Vegas now, since people think he's expendable.
Oh, the Notre Dame kid.
Yeah,
Michael Mayer.
Yeah.
So, the thing about Waller is this is going to sound weird because Waller's been through so much. Famously had a drug problem, was kicked out of the league for a year when he was with the Ravens. He's older now. I do personally know him. He'd be a great influence on some of these guys. He's really turned around his life. Speaks a lot publicly. If you listen to a podcast with him, he's unbelievable. His story is absolutely unbelievable. Probably the Dolphins thought, hey, let's bring an older player in here at no risk. He'll be at least an influence on the young guys. Although the problem with the Dolphins there are not a lot of young guys.
Yeah.
I mean, Tyreek Hill's getting old. I think that their defense is hoping for a lot of health, which they never get. Bradley Chubb, their best defensive player. Can we get some consistency? That I think has been secretly the biggest problem with Miami, and not so secretly, is injuries. Do you really think Tua is going to be around all year? Yeah. I think, Pete, you said no way, right?
I was queuing up something. Say that again?
Tua be around for the year? Any chance?
Oh, no.
Yeah.
No, I unfortunately, you want to see him around, but I just can't see that with all the injuries that he's endured.
Yeah, so I think everyone's firing Mike McDaniel already, but hey, listen, the Dolphins, if everybody is healthy, it's a lot to ask, then they could be very interesting to me.
So I played the clip from the first hour of the show where Waller was talking about the specific play, October 23 with the Giants, where they're using him at fullback, and he basically went to the sideline. I was like, what am I doing with my life?
Yeah.
Which was, he was at the time explaining part of the reason why he decided to kind of abruptly retire, but it went beyond that, as you'll hear in this. Please talk about him being on podcasts. This was with Jay Glazer earlier this year, as he outlined another issue he was dealing with at the time.
I had this viral infection of my lungs randomly during my last season in New York. It was in November of that season. I was in the hospital for 3 days. My body's like, hey man, we've had a great run here, but it's time for something new.
Now, he never disclosed specifically what the illness or issue was there, but he took the year off. He wants back in, with ESPN reporting he told people close to him he missed football and is returning for the love of the game. Now, you said as a Giant fan, kind of what would we think if he comes back and plays well? I think that would be a referendum on Brian Daboll and the Giants, because he was really good with the Raiders.
Yep.
Was crap in the 1 year with the Giants, retired. Now, if he comes back at 32 and has a big year for the Dolphins,
it sounds like he was hurt
for the
though.
Giants.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it seemed like he really just wasn't enjoying his role here. I mean, you heard him reference in that clip about lining up at fullback. It just never really seemed to work here.
Tight end is so system dependent, and you gotta use them. A couple guys who came back. Gronk retired, came back. Jason Witten retired, went to the booth. He came back and played too, right?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah,
with Dallas,
I think he did.
obviously. The thing with Gronk is, I mean, he's coming back to play with Brady with the Bucs. It's a little different than what Waller's doing.
Yeah, so Witten, I saw, took a break, came back to the Cowboys, and did one season with the Raiders. I thought he was going to be a coach.
Oh, I forgot about that.
It did not
That's
work out
right, the
great.
Raiders, yeah.
But Waller's a flyer there. I'm rooting for him. And also the Giants, listen, the Giants don't need veteran players now. They need to rebuild their team. So this is not like a big deal for the Giants.
Not for this season's Giants, but when they acquired him, I think they had designs on him being a big part of their offense and sort of a safety blanket for Daniel Jones, whoever was playing quarterback.
And, yeah, who was the quarterback for most of that year? Was it?
In 23, it was a mix because Jones got hurt. I referenced that Buffalo game that Waller was talking about. I think Tyrod Taylor started. You had Tommy DeVito start games in that season as well. So they had a mix of guys at quarterback.
Yeah, my point is, there was a lot going on.
Fair enough.
All right, CeeLo, thank you very much. We got a break because coming up, I am so excited for this. Pete Pilates, Mount Rushmore Pro Wrestlers. We see you're on the phone, too. If you want to get into the Maggie and Perloff, Dave Stieb Battle Royale as well. Dave Stieb is the man he called him. Give us a call at 888-710. 888-710-4ISN, 888-710-4476. Next, we'll do the Mount Olympus of 4 pro wrestling gods. Maggie and Perloff Show.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. 1 minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. $45 seconds remaining. $30 seconds remaining. $15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Welcome back, Maggie and Perloff Show. Mount Olympus of Toronto sports gods today, and we have a special treat coming up, a side Mount Olympus. But we have to settle the big debate of the show today. Andrew Bogusch sitting in for Maggie. Does Dave Stieb belong on this list? That's funny. Bogusch, in all seriousness, a lot of these lists we've had to leave off, like Ted Williams in Boston. Toronto I think it's a pretty cool sports city. It was hard to come up with these 4 names.
Yeah, which is why Dave Stieb gets mentioned in this conversation, because there are not quote unquote like better, more historical options.
Right. I'm saying, and I will listen. We've kind of been joking about Dave Stieb, but the fact that Pedro Martinez got left off in Boston and Dave Stieb makes a Mount Olympus, it's just kind of funny. He's not even a Hall of Famer. Let's go to Mac in Delaware. Mac, why don't you educate us here, Maggie and Perloff, on Dave Stieb's status in Toronto?
Well, good morning, Mr. Perloff. Good morning, Mr. Bogusch.
What's
and
up?
Good morning, Pete. How you guys doing? And hey, Mr. Bogusch, I warned you this morning. Didn't I warn you? About this guy? All right. I have a personal friend of mine that is a Toronto Blue Jays scout. I texted him and asked him, and he said that Dave Stieb is the greatest pitcher in Toronto Blue Jays history.
Okay.
I actually have, watched Dave Stieb when I was, younger and everything, and during the 70s and all like that. This dude was amazing. I mean, he would dominate Baltimore all the time. And I'm going to tell you right now, the guy was amazing. And you just basically can't leave off this guy on that list. But I just wanted to, say that, Dave Stieb is the truth. I mean, the honest truth. So I just want
How come he's not a Hall of Famer,
make
Mac?
that point.
Why is he not in the Hall of Fame?
Probably because Toronto. He played at Toronto, but then again, it was just more or less, the newness of the franchise. But the thing about it is that look how a lot of guys get overlooked. Dale Murphy should be in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
And I've been arguing for Dale Murphy for the longest. And my man Dave Parker that just got in, I've been arguing for him for the longest.
Yeah.
But see, these are the things. When you can put somebody like Scott Rowland into the Hall of Fame before maybe Dave Stieb or Dale Murphy, it's kind of ridiculous. But it's good to talk to you guys. I'm glad to, speak to Mr. Bogusch again. Glad to speak to my man Pete and Mr. Perloff. Take care of yourself. I'll talk to you guys a little bit later.
All right, thanks, Mac. I assume not a Perloff fan. I got a sense there.
Mac's a longtime listener. And again, doesn't like Philadelphia, so doesn't like you.
Fair enough. All right, we don't have a ton of time here, so I really want to get this. By the way, I'm looking at the 80s records. The Blue Jays were awful in the Dave Stevie era. Actually, no, they had one good year in 87. Okay, Mount Olympus, we've been doing 4 sports gods for every city. Pete Bellotti, because of some illnesses, we won't get into any details, is graciously sitting in today. So we had to take advantage of his brilliant mind. I want your Mount Olympus of professional wrestlers, your favorite sport. Pete Bellotti, let's hit it.
It's time to feast your ears
on Pete the Bodies.
Mount Olympus.
What an intro. Thank you very much. All right. So
that guy sounded hot.
He did. And I think he knows who Dave Steve is, too. So with my Mount Olympus for these 4 wrestlers, I go really to the old school. I think that's where you build the Mount Olympus off of the old time into the new time. So I'm picking, I'm going to start with Bruno Sammartino.
Of course.
Who had 188 sellouts at Madison Square Garden and still holds the longest record for men's world champion. So,
take that, Billy Joel.
That's right.
Really? I would have guessed Bob Backlund, but go ahead.
Bruno still does. So Bruno, then Hulk Hogan, who set the standard in terms of the modern era of entertainment value from a wrestler.
Mm-hmm.
Ric Flair will the 16-time world champion.
Yep.
A record that was just beaten by John Cena. So Ric Flair is number 3. And then Andre the Giant.
Oh, not Tim Horton.
Not Tim Horton.
Okay. No coach.
All right.
He might be sponsoring the mountain. But Andre the Giant's there because he was just larger than life. And every promoter wanted him. So
that's a pretty good list, dude.
Pete Bellotti's Mount Olympus, presented by Tim Hortons.
I got to tell you, the one I think most casuals would not put Bruno Sammartino. Is there, if you want to do a more modern guy, who would it be?
Steve Austin.
Over The Rock?
Yeah. He was the one that really put the WWF back into the black in terms of their revenues. They were really struggling before he had a big run, and so I would put Steve Austin if I didn't put Bruno there.
Can I give my childhood wrestling Mount Rushmore? Obviously, it starts and ends with Jimmy Superfly Snuka. May or may not have killed a person. That's besides the point. I was the biggest Superfly.
There's no moral clause in this.
I was the biggest Superfly fan of all time. We've had many people on Mount Olympus who may or may not have killed somebody. Look at you, Baltimore.
That's a separate list.
Look at you, Baltimore.
Easy. Mount Olympus of potential murderers.
Yeah, trust me. There was a running back out of who played college football in L.A. who some people wanted on their Mount Olympus, though he's not on there. Snuka, Andre the Giant. Bob Backlund was like the man when I was a little kid. The first wrestling match I ever saw, he almost lost the title to Playboy Buddy Rose, and then he lost it next month to Iron Sheik.
There'd be no wrestling if he lost to Playboy Buddy Rose.
But Roddy Piper is the one name I think you missed.
Best promo, one of the best promo guys ever.
Roddy Piper, who is Canadian, which brings us back to our Mount Olympus of Toronto sports. I think he's from Western Canada. Canada is a big part of pro wrestling, right, Pete?
Yeah, for sure. The Hart family, a lot of people from
A lot of trainers up there.
Yes, Stu Hart trained a lot of them.
Roddy Piper was from Saskatoon.
Oh, Saskatoon. Okay.
We're doing that next week.
By the way, if we did Canada, Warren Moon, and there are a lot of football players. You mentioned Hamilton, Ontario. Johnny Manziel played there. I remember that.
Oh, yeah, the Tiger Cats.
Was there a CFL as it? Rocky Calavito?
I got to be honest. When you guys, from the very beginning of this competition, you guys kept, Maggie would always yell, and Canada, and you only are doing Toronto. Why are you letting down our neighbors to the north? Give them a Vancouver. Give them a Montreal.
Well, Montreal lost the Expos. I mean, it'd be a lot of Canadians on that list. And Vancouver lost the Grizzlies.
So you can't still put Big Country Reeves on there?
Juan Soto, Montreal Expo legend.
There you go.
All right, we're going to actually talk to
Gary Carter,
Toronto sports expert next, who is going to
educate
us. He's from America, but he's lived there a long time. He can help us sort out this Dave Steve controversy next. Maggie Perloff.
You're in a 5-minute break. 4 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. .45 seconds remaining. .30 seconds remaining. .15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Maggie and Perloff on the Infinity Sports Network.
Welcome back, Maggie and Perloff Show. Maggie is on vacation. Andrew BOGUSCH is sitting in the big chair. A lot going on today. We've been trying to figure out what is going to happen with Giannis in Milwaukee. I am not a fan of what I'm going to call passive-aggressive tweets, different messages going through the media. If you want out, dude, just tell us. Just tell us, Bogues. Don't leave us hanging.
Or just tell them.
Tell them. That would be helpful. It does seem like it's getting late into the hot stove period for him to make a move. I think it's more likely he starts the season there. I think they're a better team with Miles Turner. Damian Lillard, working out great for him. He gets paid, gets to rehab at home in Portland. So it's all going to work out. Then we'll see at the trade deadline. If it does happen that way, man, it's going to be interesting. Will the Western contenders start to go after Giannis if they can't get him this offseason? I think so. Okay, today is the Mount Olympus, 4 sports gods, every major sports city. We are in Toronto. It was a hard one. A lot of arguing. Maggie sent in her list. Bogusch was defending it. Got a little bit heated. Then, of course, Pete Pilati gave his Mount Olympus of pro wrestlers, which was a lot of fun. But my list for Toronto was Vince Carter, Joe Carter, Roberto Alomar, and Matt Sundin. Bogues, who did Maggie have?
Maggie went with Matt Sundin, Robbie Alomar, the very controversial Dave Stieb, and Tim Horton.
Okay, so Maggie went off the board with Tim Horton. A lot of fun. We're going to talk to who I now consider definitely an expert on the Toronto sports scene. Is used to work with me at Sports Illustrated. Now, of course, is a writer at The Athletic, host of the Sports Media podcast. Richard Deitch. Richard, how you doing?
I'm doing well. Let me just point out that I've worked with all 3 people who are part of this show at the moment. Obviously, yes. I worked with Maggie and Andrew for many years at Sports Illustrated. But what, Andrew, you might not know is Andrew Bogusch and I worked once. Andrew Bogusch called U.S. Open Tennis Live, and I was his color analyst for one day.
No way. Oh, that is so fun.
And that's got to be 20 years old now.
It is old, and I mean, as painful as it is, obviously, to compliment Andrew Bogusch, I will say, back then, he was an excellent play-by-play broadcaster, and you could easily see him doing that long term because he had the cadence of calling tennis, which is not an easy sport to call. So that was a fun experience, and I could always say that I called tennis with Andrew Bogusch.
And I've only gone as far as hanging out with Perloff on a Wednesday morning.
Yeah, I mean, in all honesty, Andrew, it doesn't seem like the career trajectory has been great.
It
but
has not, no.
Oh, come on. He's still doing play-by-play of basketball. He's a very, Richard, to be honest, like we all know Bogusch is really talented, so we try to pull him back in, like that analogy. We try and keep him down and keep his spirits down so he doesn't leave us. So let's not talk about his talent. All right, what do you think of our Toronto, we're calling it Mount Olympus, a lot like a Mount Rushmore, our top four athletes from the city. Who got it right, who got it wrong?
Well, so, I mean, I think all of you in some ways have gotten it right. I've now lived here for 7 years, so obviously I'm now immersed in the Toronto sports scene. And so everyone's argument is legit. I mean, maybe outside of Maggie's Tim Horton. I think she said to be very honest, yeah, I mean, the donuts and the coffee are fine, but let's not go crazy with the...
So you haven't listened to all this. Literally every guest says some version of that same thing. Like, these are all good, 7 out of 8. And then that one Maggie one is a little wonky. Every day is like that.
In all seriousness, no, Tim Horton especially because he died very, very tragically and was supposedly, so obviously before all our times, a great guy. In all seriousness, it's actually a thoughtful person to put on Mount Olympus. But if you're asking me just sort of purely for sports, Kyle Lowry, far and away, is the easiest one for me to put on the list. He's the greatest Raptor of all time. Still to this day, all-time leader in assists, steals, 3-pointers made. I think maybe 6-time All-Star. And most importantly, helped the Raptors win the 2019 NBA championship, which is one of the great moments in this city. Sure, they don't win without Kawhi Leonard, but Kyle Lowry, I think if you talk to most Torontonians in terms of who's the greatest basketball player in the history of the franchise, he would honestly get the nod over Vince. I would say 9 out of 10 Raptors fans, not to mention that Vince left with some acrimony. He has made up. They did retire his jersey, but it didn't end well. Lowry will always go down as the greatest of all time. All right, so second, again, this is before all of our time. But again, if you will talk to hardcore Maple Leafs fans, Dave Keon would be on Mount Olympus. So that's 4 Stanley Cup, part of 4 Stanley Cup wins. Conn Smythe Trophy in '67, last time the Maple Leafs won the Stanley Cup, which is a very, very important and hard to deal with number up here for Torontonians. Played 15 seasons with the team, Hockey Hall of Famer, great two-way player. He's considered the greatest Maple Leaf. Matt Sundin, obviously great Maple Leaf. Jorge Salming, Doug Gilmour. There's a lot of people who sort of, maybe even Austin Matthews now, are in that next tier. But to me, Dave Keon is there. And then my final 2 are baseball people. And this is where it gets tough because I think Alomar has a legit argument. I think Joe Carter certainly has a legit argument. But for me, the 2 would be Roy Halladay, even though, Andrew, your beloved Philadelphia. Still, he's the all-time he's the, I think he is second in terms of all-time WAR for pitchers in Blue Jays history. Obviously won a Cy Young, one of the dominant pitchers in his era, and obviously a Hall of Famer. And then I think it might have been Maggie who said this. I would put Dave Stieb on there, too. He's very, very underrated because 1980s baseball players, generally are underrated. But he pitched 15 seasons for the Blue Jays, still the franchise leader in wins, strikeouts, innings, complete games, shutouts, 7 All-Star games. And if you go back and look at his stats, you probably will be like, man, this guy should probably be in the Hall of Fame. But that's very true of a lot of 1980s baseball players. You don't get the, they lose out because the 90s and the 2000s steroid-enhanced stats, they go down. So that would be mine. I would say if you're going to look into the future, I would be stunned if Vladimir Guerrero Jr. would not overtake somebody on the Mount Olympus, and then most likely Austin Matthews will as well. So if you're going to, if we were having this conversation 10 years from now, I'm almost certain those 2 guys would be on the list.
Talking to Richard Deitch, the Athletic sports media writer, host of the Sports Media Podcast. I got to tell you, though, Richard, I talked to our good buddy Dan O'Toole, who couldn't come on, formerly Fox Sports, Jay and Dan, TSN, and he said Vince Carter is a sports god in Toronto. He said he might put them there. And my question is this. Why did Toronto and really all of Canada become such a basketball hotbed? We not really knowing, assumed part of that was Vince Carter and Tracy McGrady making this sport popular. But now it's a real factor in the NBA, players coming out of Canada.
First of all, I love the fact that I'm the replacement for Dan O'Toole because it's like one of those movies where you can't get DiCaprio or Affleck, and then it's some just random actor who comes in. So that feels really good for
Well, here's the thing. You're not a native Torontoan. So we're Maggie and I were talking about it, we got to get Deitch. And we were going to have both you on. We do 2 guests for every Mount Olympus. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. No, I'm like a Walmart Torontonian. I've come up, just for a couple of years.
So why are there so many great ball players coming out of Toronto and the area?
Yeah, so if you look at, and I know Andrew, you both know this because you follow it. If you look at the number of NBA players from Canada right now, it's incredible. The Canadians have a real shot in 2028 to medal. They obviously have the MVP of the league, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, right? But just go down the list: Lou Dort, Dylan Brooks, R.J. Barrett, Nicole Alexander-Walker. There's a pretty good group of Canadians in terms of. Jamal Murray, I didn't even mention another All-Star. What happened is that in the early 2010s, there was a lot of money that was put into youth basketball programs. And so you're getting now the Shai Gilgeous-Alexander generation. You're not seeing them in their mid-20s emerge in the NBA. But what really changed everything was the fact that just the Raptors came to Toronto. That's really what changed everything. It was certainly a hockey country forever, and in many ways it still is. But the Raptors having, Canada having a professional basketball team, it just sort of seeped down into everything. So you get more youth programs, you get more kids who are watching like Damon Stoudemire or Vince Carter. They decide that they want to play basketball in high school, and then there just was a lot of money that was put into the sport. Here's the last one, and this is more of a socioeconomic reason. Canada very much is a country of immigrants. So you have a lot of people who whose parents came to Canada from countries where they played basketball or soccer, not necessarily hockey at all or baseball. And I think they passed down to their kids that basketball is a sport you should watch or soccer is a sport you should watch. and then ultimately those kids and perhaps their kids go into those sports, and then you see eventually the best of the best, get to the top. But I'm not trying to wave my Maple Leaf flag here, but if you look at how many players from Canada are in the NBA for a country of 40 million, that's really, really impressive. I would say probably the same thing about France as well. So I'm not guaranteeing they're going to win a 2028 gold medal, but watch out for them in the LA Olympics. To me, they're one of the 3 or 4 teams with a real shot to beat the Americans if they get lucky on the right day.
Richard, I want to go back to the Leafs here for a second, because obviously when we're talking Toronto and Canada, we're thinking hockey first, and not to kind of double down on Leaf fan frustration, but we all came up with Matt Sundin, and his last game for them was like 17 years ago. It feels a little damning that no one between now and then. Matthews might get there soon, but the fact that he's not there yet, or somebody else isn't there yet, just kind of feels wrong about Maple Leafs hockey.
Yeah, I mean, listen, the generation that was supposed to obviously change everything was Nylander, Marner, Matthews. Obviously, they got Tavares from the Islanders, and there's just been a lot of playoff frustration. Some of that is the Leafs are unlucky in the fact that they play in the conference that has had, 3 of the great dynastic kind of teams, right? If you sort of go Florida, Tampa Bay, Boston over the last 15 years. So they've run into some teams that are really, really built well and are legitimate, 2-time, 3-time Stanley Cup champion kind of teams. But you made a good point, Andrew. There's nobody really from the 2000s, maybe other than like Gilmore and Sandin who would be up there. But no, they don't have there's not a Connor McDavid, there's not a Sidney Crosby. There's not somebody who really has just, sort of put themselves at the top of the NHL pyramid. I think people thought that was Austin Matthews. And again, he's one of the great goal scorers of all time. But the thing about Toronto, and you guys can relate to this because you're in New York. If you are a Yankees fan and you follow the Yankees, essentially it's not a successful season unless they win the World Series. Those standards are honestly pretty ridiculous because, you're basically saying that you have to beat 29 other teams every year, which is very, very hard to do. But that's essentially how Maple Leafs fans look at the Leafs. If they don't win a Stanley Cup, they consider it a failing season, and it just hasn't happened. And then, maybe it hasn't happened because, like you just said, Andrew, they've had very, very good players. They've had all-star players, but at least in the playoffs, they have not seen any kind of transformational playoff performer. And, there's a reason why they haven't won a cup since '67.
Yeah. Talking to Richard Deitch, the Athletic sports media writer, host of the Sports Media Podcast. Richard, you've been a long-time supporter of the WNBA. We had a debate earlier in the show. If any sport, organized sport, is going to break into the core 4 of North American sports, being baseball, basketball, football, and hockey, what league do you think could do it? And our producer, who's not here today, EJ Stewart, said it was the WNBA. Do you think that's possible, that the WNBA takes its place next to, say, MLB, NBA, and the NHL?
All right, so we're not considering college football like a league or a sport.
Yeah, for the sake of this argument, we're going to keep college football, which we know is gigantic, to the side.
Yeah, because college football, if we're going to be realistic, is number 2. First of all, there's the NFL, then, you have the Pacific Ocean, and then college football, and then you start talking about some of the other sports. I don't know. I don't know if the WNBA certainly has a ton of momentum. They just expanded, or they just announced expansion through 2030, including your beloved Philadelphia, Andrew. That'll be a great franchise, by the way. I don't know if they're going to get to the Big 4 level. I think that's a little bit of a big ask. Some of that has really nothing to do with the WNBA, but to me, it would have to do with inventory. The league is only 44 games in terms of the regular season, right? So if you're talking about in comparison with those other leagues in terms of being part of the public sports consciousness, well, baseball has 162, NHL now has 84, right? So, and the NBA has 82, and I'm not including the postseason. So those seasons are so long that they're part of the American sporting conscious for much longer than the WNBA would be. And I don't see the WNBA expanding into those kind of numbers because they're not going to be able to get the kind carriage for the networks that have their contracts. I mean, they just, you'd end up having them on like ESPN 53 or something like that in September. You don't want that. So I would say, my short answer, and again, very few people, I think, if anybody who's sort of read me or followed me on X or Blue Sky, they know like I'm a very big women's basketball person. I've covered the sport since 2002. My answer would be no. That doesn't mean that's failure. It just means that I don't think they can get into the big four, which is very hard to get. Also, if you just look at the finances, franchise valuations, television streaming contracts, they're not close. That said, when you start to talk about like whatever that next tier is, and you guys would have to figure out what that next tier is. Is it like MLS? Is it tennis? Is it if you fill in your whatever, college baseball, whatever. Fill in whatever you think would be in that next tier. I think they could lead that next tier. Like I think they would have a real shot at that, but I don't think they can break into the big four, just given the financials and given the game inventory.
I was going to sneak in a wrestling question because I think you're qualified to answer this as well.
Oh, definitely.
Richard. Our esteemed board op, Pete Bellotti, did his Mount Olympus of wrestlers for us this morning, and he's got Hogan, Andre the Giant, Ric Flair, and Bruno Sammartino.
Bruno. I don't know how old you're. Pete. Did you say his name is Pete?
Yeah. Now
right?
He's not that old,
but he's technically he's not old in spirit and soul and preferences. He's about 84.
By the way, shout out to Pete then for giving Bruno Sammartino, because that is not something anybody under 35 would usually drop. Are you putting me on the spot? I feel like the Mount Olympus of wrestling has a lot to do with like who you like, as opposed to like who you think is the quote unquote like greatest in-ring performer. So in terms of the people that I like, Roddy Piper would be up there.
Oh yeah.
Sting would be there. I mean, I guess I'll put Hogan up there just because like I don't know how you couldn't have Hogan in the Mount Olympus, just given how much money he's made and like his significance to it. Although, man, if I hear the guy like pitch another freaking product, I'm going to throw myself in the ocean. All right, so we'll put Hogan there. Man, in that last spot. I mean, Flair obviously has a lot of, he'd have a good argument. Andre obviously is an attraction, would have a good argument. By the way, I'm not saying this guy would be on most Mount Olympuses, but I'm going to put him on because anytime I watch his old school promos, I absolutely love the guy. And that would be Paul Orndorff, who is one of the great bad guys of all time. But you know what? I'm going to toss him out, and I'm going to put a manager on there, just because I want to give the manager some love. So I'm putting Paul Heyman on my Mount Olympus.
Oh, wow. What about
I think Bellotti approves. He's shaking his head yes. So there you go.
What about
Bobby
the Brain is not going to make that over
this is
Paul Heyman?
Yeah, I mean, if you guys are desperate for summer fare, whatever. July 18th. Trust me, there have been hours-long podcasts debating who the better manager is of all time between Paul Heyman, Bobby Heenan, and Jim Cornette. So there's your 3-hour wrestling podcast if you're really into it.
I'm so into it. By the way, we used to work together at Sports Illustrated. What was the general view in the early to mid 2000s about pro wrestling in the halls of Sports Illustrated?
Oh my God, I would say it was like you might as well basically been supporting like Putin and the Soviet Union, baby.
Yeah. For the Big J journalists, pro wrestling was. I remember you always. It's funny because you obviously taught journalism, very much about journalism, and you still liked pro wrestling, but the rest of the gang not so much.
No, back then, like I mean, I guess maybe they would run something if you did it like in a very kind of either academic kind of look or maybe financial look, but no, it was like. You were a heathen, basically. You were looked down upon. Although I do feel like, honestly, the group of us who liked wrestling have won. Not because wrestling is super popular, but please tell me that those of us who have watched professional wrestling for the last 20 plus years do not have a very good feel for United States politics. So I feel like I have emerged in terms of my wrestling fandom by having an ace in the hole in terms of being able to predict some of the things that are happening in the U.S. But you are totally right, Andrew. I mean, again, we worked with some very brilliant people, much smarter than me. But man, like if you even went down the list of, hey, can we write like something on WrestleMania?
Yeah, Frank
they'd be
DeFord.
like, yeah.
Frank DeFord, give me a profile of Mr. Fuji. That was not happening.
Right, yeah. They'd be like, go outside and get us a hot dog, you idiot.
Yeah. All right, Richard, really appreciate the time and the insight on Toronto. Hope to talk to you soon. Enjoy your summer, bud.
All right, say hi to Maggie for me. Thanks, guys.
Will do.
Thanks, Richard.
Okay, so I'm being educated on the power of Dave Stieb, apparently, is what's happening here.
We win. The Steebers win.
Well, I'm going to dominate this poll. I specifically put Robbie Alomar because anyone on planet Earth has heard of him. Dave Stieb is not quite high profile. Robbie Alomar, high profile. That's true. I used to work at SI, and pro wrestling was a joke. So today, the Mount Olympus of Toronto Sports Gods and Pete Pilati's pro wrestling sports gods, that would not have flown at SI, Andrew Bogusch.
Yeah. I kind of skew in that direction still these days about wrestling conversations, as Pete well knows.
But EJ's been trying to get pro wrestlers into this Mount Olympus, and we haven't bitten yet.
That's when I leave. I almost quit over Portland and Gary Payton and Oregon State. I'm out if anybody says a wrestler.
But I don't agree. If you want to call in with some wrestlers, I'd love to hear it. 888-710-4ISN, 888-710-4476. See you on the phone lines. We are going to get into some Canadian wrestling next. Oh, yeah. Maggie and Perloff Show.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. 1 minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. "45 seconds remaining. "30 seconds remaining. "15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
All right. Welcome back, Maggie and Perloff. Mount Olympus, 4 sports gods, every major sports city. Today is Toronto.
Well, we're playing
Somehow we've gotten a lot of pro wrestling. Bogusch sitting in for Maggie today, Andrew Bogusch. Did you know that I was a massive wrestling fan? I would buy magazines back in the day.
What's that?
They're pro wrestling magazines. And the fascinating thing to me was...
They're like small books? Oh,
yeah,
okay.
but glossy. There were, in the back, they would have all these different pro wrestling leagues from around the country, and they had different rankings. And I always thought there was this mysterious world. Like there was the Florida League, there was the Southwestern League.
Sounds like minor league baseball.
This is like Pete's porn.
Pete, you know what I'm talking about, right? Yeah.
Why are your pants off?
All the territories.
All the territories. It was amazing. So there was this mysterious, there was this Florida league where they had like snakes in the ring. I'm not joking. Like
Excuse
it was
me?
crazy down
Kevin
there.
Sullivan.
Kevin Sullivan.
Oh, Kevin Sullivan. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And then there's
He's on the Gainesville. Mount
I was always
Olympus.
shocked. I'm like, why is this? Everybody has a territory with a big muscular star, but down in the Southwest, they have this chubby guy who is the champion. And of course, that was Dusty Rhodes. And I was fascinated because I didn't get to see any of them when I went to the Spectrum in Philadelphia every month to watch my guy, Roddy Piper. Yeah, I got to tell you, I'm a huge wrestling nerd, Bogusch. You did not know this.
I did not, but I'm assuming it ended like somewhere like around
puberty.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Good. Like the normal progression.
I'll relax.
But I got to tell you, pro wrestling is like now acceptable, is much more mainstream than it was in say 1998.
Go ahead.
Makes a lot of money.
Yeah.
Pete and EJ still haven't gone past that puberty stage, apparently.
Relax.
According to Bogusch. That's what Bogusch said. I'm not saying it.
Hey, I'm not wearing 400 wristbands at a Dave Matthews concert.
I'm not wearing any right now.
Oh boy, we're getting some old
But guess
school
what?
Bilotti
Dave Matthews
Bogusch.
real.
That's a terrible dancer too.
You guys should wrestle.
They wrestle. You know what? If they wrestle, they'd crash into each other.
That's right.
I want to go home.
Let's go to Derek in Baltimore.
I'm sick too, EJ.
Derek, what do you think of our Mount Olympus for Toronto sports? And if you'd like to weigh in on Pete's wrestling Mount Olympus.
Yeah, so for one, Maggie is absolute crazy for not putting in Vince Carter. I know a while back she caught some flack for Pittsburgh, and she said that people thought she was really on crack. And I'm starting to go along with the people now.
Actual crack.
Because listen, I don't call the show a lot, but I listen every day, and I agree with Maggie more than you, Perloff, a lot of the times. But to not have Vince Carter on that list, yeah, we need to find out what is she doing on vacation.
Well, Derek, yeah, crack. Derek, you should start agreeing with me more. Maybe you should start seeing if she doesn't have Vince Carter on, maybe you can't trust her day-to-day takes either.
Yeah, I'm starting to rethink my evaluations on her. And the guy that did the wrestling Mount Rushmore, I thought he was doing Canadian. So I did my own Canadian because I thought the whole thing was like Canadian theme. So I'm like, hold up, those guys are from Canada? So I'm like, oh. So now I'm doing. So here's my four. Here's my four Canadian Mount Rushmore wrestlers.
I can't wait.
I'm going Bret Hart.
Okay.
I'm going Chris Jericho. Because
Okay.
I grew up mostly in the 90s. I'm going Edge, and this name is controversial. I'm only saying it for wrestling purposes. Chris Benoit.
Pete, what's your reaction?
You're right about that controversial last name. I'm not going to even talk about it, but the first three, I think he's on the ball.
What about Roddy Piper? Maybe a little before your time.
No, I know about. See, I didn't know he was Canadian. Well, and you can definitely put him because he's one of the greatest heel wrestlers ever.
Yeah, oh yeah. He
That
was
guy,
the best.
that guy was amazing. It's a catastrophe. Vince McMahon never made him world champ. That's crazy.
Yeah. Do you guys ever see the Roddy Piper? And thank you, Derek, for the call. I love it. Keep on calling in and agreeing with me and realizing the Maggie's on crack. Nothing
That was
better
the
than hear
best
that.
call ever.
Yeah.
They said she was on crack. I didn't believe it, but now I do.
Who was on crack?
That.
To be fair, he did say most days he agrees with Maggie, and I kind of get that. But Roddy Piper, have you guys ever seen the movie he's in?
They Live?
They Live. He's really good.
Pete's
And it's
watching it right now.
It's a pretty good movie. It's like a 90s sci-fi, lo-fi movie. Roddy Piper was fantastic.
John Carpenter.
Yeah, I watched an hour-long Lifetime documentary on him. It was at A&E.
How do you find all this time in your day?
Right?
Oh, you kidding me? Well, because you guys are... What do you guys watch at night?
Sports.
Yeah, I watch sports. It is called sports. It's called a documentary on a pro wrestler.
No, but it is, you are one of those people who seem to have more than 24 hours in a day, unless you're just not sleeping. Because you always, I watched the Hardwoods Classic game. Yesterday you were.
I watched the Vikings Cowboys
Right,
1998 Thanksgiving Day game.
Right. What? You were inviting Aaron Nagler over to watch that game with you. You go here, you go there.
You were listening to a podcast 2 days ago.
Okay, but the show ends at 10 Eastern. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Your kids are how old?
13 and 14.
But he's always going somewhere, picking somebody up from dance class or a swim meet.
I'm
or
actually quite busy. I appreciate that CeeLo to imply I have nothing going on. That felt great. But that being said,
I'm saying your kids are probably a little bit more self-sufficient,
Independent.
not as far as driving goes. But like I have a 9 and a 6-year-old. When I'm home, it's play with me,
Right.
play. Like,
but don't
they
you
wanna
need
play.
to zone? Okay, yeah, I have the same thing. I had the same thing. My kids are
Had,
old.
keyword.
Don't you have to zone out with like an hour of TV at night when you even if it's late?
I
Like
mean,
I
I'd
have to
love
flip
to.
around Netflix or something.
Yeah.
I'd love to, but I just go to sleep.
Well, okay.
Yeah. I just gotta go to bed
Why are you in such a bad mood today?
because I didn't still sleep enough. I'm in a great mood today.
I don't know about that.
He doesn't have much of a commute, right? You have a relatively short commute. Is that correct?
You
Do
know
I
what,
have that
CeeLo,
right?
I don't need you analyzing.
You do
my
have a lot
life.
of free time now that I think of it.
I don't.
You're home by what, 10:45?
I'm not criticizing you. I'm trying to figure out those pockets of time that you could probably grab that others cannot.
You want to know what the key is, and it'll annoy people? I fast forward through shows as I'm watching them.
That you haven't seen?
Well, like I'll get a sense of it. You know, on Netflix, I'm like, do I really want to watch this? This is boring. Fast forward, get to the end, boom. Or I'll just read the recap on Wikipedia.
Like your own version of Cliff Notes.
Yeah, I
Or
do my
I'll-
own because, you know, there's so many streaming options and most of the stuff is not great. So you don't want to get caught binging and killing 30 hours on a show.
Crappy show.
You guys never do this? Anyone ever?
Fast forward? No. If I don't like the show or I think it's boring, I'll just stop watching it and move on to something else that's more interesting.
Got to tell you, the 1998 game, Dion was out, so Randy Moss was uncovered basically, and Randall Cunningham was just. There was about 20 Hall of Famers in this game. It was an amazing game. John Madden was on fire, and then boom. I got to be. I don't care what's going on. I'm gonna stop and watch that game. Bogues, you don't watch much TV at all.
No, I would watch more if I had more time. Like yesterday, I was out of my house. I woke up at 3:30, got here, went home, was home for 45 minutes.
What time do you get home?
I got home at 2:30.
Yeah.
I went back. I left my house again at 3:30, and I didn't get home until 8:15, and that was lucky because the game, my son's game, got rained out. Otherwise, I would have been out until almost 10, and I would have went home and gone right back to sleep.
Yeah.
10 o'clock. Yeah,
4.5, 5
Where am I
hours.
watching?
Yeah.
any real games or old games.
Dude, I mean, sorry, is Jake going to the majors? Like, you're going to have to invest 5 hours a day here on this?
So we're in a tough spot. We're in a lot of, like 11 games in 8 days where it's over now.
Okay, well, that explains the mood. Let's
Yeah,
go to
it's
Dominic
over.
in San Francisco.
You're the mood.
Dominic, how did we do on our Toronto Sports Mount Olympus?
I thought you guys did awesome. I've got the whole 9 yards here if you have a little time for a protracted version.
I see what you did there. But that's a movie about Montreal, but go ahead.
Yeah. I've got Vince Carter for sure, Bobby Alomar, a guy by the name of Johnny Bauer, the guy was a fly swatter for those into defense. He was a goaltender.
Yep.
He won 4 Stanley Cups in the 60s and took 100-mile-an-hour slap shots with no face or headgear whatsoever.
Oh, my God.
That had to be crazy back then.
Okay, that's funny because we've had a bunch of old Maple Leafs, and he's been mentioned.
Yeah, okay, and also I've got a god and a superhero at the same time. He played for the Toronto Argonauts, albeit not for a long time, but he did play, and that's the Hulk, Lou Ferrigno.
Ah, there you go. That's a good one. I did not know that.
For my hottie, I had to go countrywide and pull out Linda Evangelista. You'll have to Google like the mid-'80s for her posters. And
Okay.
for the music group, one of my faves, I've got the Bare Naked Ladies.
Yeah.
Oh, good choice.
For the wrestling gods, you're going to have to Google, but I do have Hulk Hogan, Ric Flair, and I've got icons, Ray Stevens and Pepper Gomez.
Okay. Ray Stevens, the comedian guy, right?
No. He was a wrestler.
Oh. Who am I thinking? Oh, I thought you were doing icons. Okay.
Wrestling icons.
Who is Ray Stevens?
He was one of the wrestlers in the 70s and 80s.
Right, but who's the real Ray Stevens? The famous Ray Stevens.
The comedian? I have
Yeah,
no
was
idea
he
who
like
that
a...
is.
Yeah, you guys never heard of Ray? He did like Mama got ran over by a reindeer. I think that's Ray
wasn't
Stevens.
that famous then.
Yeah.
Sounds like the Dave Steve of his time.
He's a big deal. Actually, maybe I have the wrong or something, but Ray Stevens, the actual... Thank you, Dominic. Ray Stevens, the entertainer, was a much bigger deal than Ray Stevens, a wrestler, as far as I remember.
I need more on Pepper Gomez because that seemed to stump Bellotti.
An older wrestler.
Again, that's why I thought he got out of the wrestling world. I was talking about other people.
Is this the gentleman you're talking about here?
Oh, yeah, Ray Stevens, big deal.
American singer, songwriter, and comedian. So.
I thought he wrote Mama got run over by a reindeer, but maybe he did not.
Let's see here.
I am totally wrong on that one. Okay. CeeLo, I'll look at Ray Stevens. Why don't you give us some sports headlines?
All right, so we did a bit on some of these NBA contracts, specifically the Pistons adding Duncan Robinson in that sign and trade with the Heat, 3 years, $48 million. So Detroit kind of pivoting here with the Malik Beasley situation, with the investigation, of course, into the federal gambling probe. And now there came out, I guess, yesterday that there's a lawsuit that involves a New York-based management group that's seeking $2.25 million in damages and legal fees from Beasley for breach of contract.
Whoops.
So he apparently had some financial issues going on, which now adds another layer of sort of intrigue and concern to this whole situation.
Plausibility that he may have been taking bets, affecting bets.
Casting aspersions over there.
Yep.
Well, I mean, there's dots to be connected now. Whether they are officially connected one day, it's all alleged now, but that's not helpful if you're trying to defend yourself to us to find out that you're being sued for 7 figures.
Oh, you don't think that helps his case?
Does not.
Oh.
Specifically, they were trying to recoup a $650,000 marketing advance, but, quote, received little more than drips and drabs of sporadic payments and vague promises to repay the balance over time.
And I think they said they gave him that money up front.
Advance, yes.
Because he needed money. Because he needed cash.
Yes, elected to take a chance and make a substantial investment of time, effort, and resources in a player with known issues, including and especially financial issues.
Yeah.
So,
in some ways, this feels like, I know Ipe was a big deal and all the players are suspended. This feels like this might be like the worst, since gambling became widely legal, this might be the biggest scandal we've had.
Well, and if this is going the way, or it happened the way it looks like it happened, like this was always the fear, right? As a player gets in trouble financially, either from gambling or from or just spends himself out of cash, and then to find more money, this is what happens. He
Right.
compromised himself. Somebody forces him to do it to make up a debt. Like, this has always been the concern about this scenario.
Right. We had Jonte Porter, but he was a journeyman. I mean, he was barely known. Malik Beasley, we got to see in the playoffs. And he's a good, he's a journeyman too, but he's a good player.
Had a good season, was about to seemingly cash in free agency, maybe not
I
to
know.
the
They were well down the
Supermax or
road on the
anything.
deal, reportedly.
Yeah. I think I had it. I thought I had it somewhere. Oh yeah, 3 years, $42 million. He was
Incredible.
discussing with the Pistons, but now that's obviously on hold. Perloff this morning didn't have much interest in the Fever Champions or Commissioners Cup win over the Lynx. You were more interested in the Red Panda injury at halftime.
Yeah.
So all that I've seen so far is no update on her condition, though a WNBA source said after the game she was taken to the hospital for evaluation after she took a spill there off the unicycle and hit the deck. It seemed like a wrist injury or an arm injury. Now, Caitlin Clark, who didn't play in the game for the Fever, was there cheering on her teammates, also chimed in on this. I guess she jumped onto her teammates' Instagram live post to say, "Red Panda, we love you." So there you go. Caitlin
Okay, there
Clark's
you go.
checking all the boxes and trying to make sure that she is heard and seen, even on the night where she was not able to play, but her team did get the win. Notable from Wimbledon yesterday, Coco Gauff became just the third woman in the Open era to lose in the first round at Wimbledon right after winning the French Open as she went down against unseeded Diana Yastremska of Ukraine Tuesday night. Gauff afterwards spoke of her recent win at the French Open, maybe feeling like wasn't quite as prepared for this Grand Slam event as she normally would be.
I don't know. I felt like mentally I was a little bit overwhelmed with everything that came afterwards, so I didn't feel like I had that enough time to do, I guess, celebrate and then also like get back into it.
You also had Jessica Pegula going down. So that was day 2 of the tournament. It is the first women's major in the Open era in which 2 of the top 3 seeds lost their opening matches. So not a good start there at Wimbledon for the ladies.
Also had Alex Zverev on the men's side, a top 5 seed lose. And then he said afterwards, "I'm really alone in life right now."
And out on the court.
Cool. Yeah.
Feels very alone out there on the court and mentally struggling. Yeah.
Might have picked the wrong sport, dude.
Yeah.
Damn.
And I think, did that match get suspended Monday and they finished it yesterday? Because I was seeing the
sounds
highlights.
right.
Arthur
Something with an R.
Rinderkesh.
He's new to me.
I love that. Yeah. I like flip, especially in the early stages of these tournaments and there's a million matches going on. I like to see
So many consonants.
which names I can even take a stab at. But they do a nice job usually on the websites, both the ATP and the WTA. They get the little speaker icon. So if you don't know how to pronounce their names, you can hear the players pronouncing it themselves.
Oh, is that how you got from yesterday? How you got that sound of that
Yeah.
Italian lady that you had no idea how to pronounce?
Let her say it.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's I would agree. That's the way to go. Don't even attempt it. Just let
And
them
I
do
can't
it
mess
for
it
you.
up.
Yeah.
There it is.
Oh, boy.
It's a good way to go. I would agree.
So a pro does it.
Bit
All
of
right.
a lazy way out, but whatever. Go
That's one way to look at
That's
it.
the accurate. I mean, you want to be accurate, you go right to the source.
Thank you.
Or maybe you just, actually try.
Oh, boy. All right. Let's take a break.
Tough week for Manny.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
It's a tough week for Dave Stieb's legacy, I'll tell you that.
I've heard that from Dave Stieb.
But all right, before we wrap up, there's a new twist and turn in the LeBron saga that is just as confusing as all the other twists and turns. Are there other teams that are looking at LeBron? We'll get into that next. Maggie and Perloff Show.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. 3 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. .45 seconds remaining. .30 seconds remaining. .15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
All right, welcome back, Maggie and Perloff. Andrew Bogusch in for Maggie. Didn't talk about LeBron James yet today, which is a first in the NBA hot stove period. But there was a funny headline yesterday that caught my attention. Dave McMenamin on ESPN said that he talked to LeBron's agent, Rich Paul, and Rich Paul said 4 teams, and I quote, have contacted him, the agent, in the last 24 hours wanting to talk trades. But apparently, Rich Paul did not answer those teams or really get into the conversations.
Oh, he didn't give specifics.
Yeah, he didn't give any specifics. No, Rich Paul said, I wouldn't even start those until we had some kind of agreement with the Lakers. So I'm just curious, if you had to guess, like, what kind of team would want LeBron? Is it a team that's one piece away, like, I don't know, Houston Rockets or San Antonio Spurs? Or is it a team in the East, like the Cleveland, who's going to build around LeBron? I don't think he's getting traded. Since he opted in at $52.5 million, nobody can afford him anyway. So there aren't a lot of options in the salary cap structure, but I think this LeBron trade talk is a bunch of bluster, and he will return to LA.
This feels like when Manny says, "Oh yeah, 3 girls, DM'd me yesterday."
Yeah.
Oh, really? What are their names? Can't tell you.
Does Manny say that?
No.
Because we wouldn't believe it. Exactly.
So who should want LeBron? I mean, the Cavs make sense for a number of different reasons. And I do think if you're just looking at this from, if you can put the $52 million and matching contracts aside for a second, I do think that if you're a player away, quote unquote, you should think about LeBron. Because I do think it's 97% nonsense, but I do think that somewhere in there is a guy that does want to win a title again. And I think he's okay with being LeBron, but really not technically the number one option on the team anymore. So he's not going to go somewhere and come off somebody's bench. Like, you're still going to be at worst your number 3 option. But I'd want him. Like, I know EJ and Manny immediately dismissed him as a Knick.
Yeah.
The Knicks should want him.
I see it being a bit complicated for the Knicks. The Knicks, we were just talking about, have a strong culture as is. Like LeBron, you reset everything, and everything you've kind of built over the last couple of years goes away, and you have to start over.
But haven't we kind of all agreed that there's a ceiling to this culture and whatever? Like,
I would go a little opposite. I'm going to borrow something from Maggie. Maggie mentioned the Warriors as a good fit with LeBron. I would want him to go to an older team. I'm not sending him to a Houston, a Minnesota, a San Antonio, where he'll be the old guy. I don't think that formula is going to work. I think he's got to play with other veterans and go for one more ring.
I mean, Houston to me is a non-starter because of Durant. And then the Mavericks came up like in the last 12 hours.
That is wild.
I don't know how they would do that financially. And you don't have Kyrie for a good chunk of the season. But like the Timberwolves make sense the way they made sense for Durant.
Yeah, Durant didn't want them.
No, I know. But if you're just talking about basketball, fitting him in alongside Edwards and Randall, like I like that.
I don't like that as much as Durant fits a little more because Durant's different than Anthony Edwards and LeBron are both doing the same things.
But I think I still think generally the same logic applies to both of those players there, that Minnesota would be significantly better with either one of them on their roster.
Yeah. We'll see. I mean, I don't think anything's going to happen. I think he's going to be a Laker. It's going to be disappointing. Maybe he can't go at the trade deadline. I'm a little bummed out because I don't think we're going to really have a Lakers storyline into this year. I think it's going to end on a down note, and because the Lakers are not going all in this year. They're saving money for later on. They clearly want to rebuild around Luka Doncic. Don't you agree?
Yes, and which is why we're going to do this with LeBron for real a year from now.
I am actually a little disappointed about one thing with today's show. So there's a lot of behind-the-scenes stuff going on. EJ, I do not want to spell any of this out. It is gross. He's sick.
He's sick.
He's sick. No, it's not that. Actually, I don't know any
It
details.
might be our fault, too.
Could be. Probably. We just drove him into sickness.
We guilted him out of the subway, and then he falls apart physically.
So one thing that happened, we could not put up the poll today about who had the better Mount Olympus for Toronto for Sports Gods. I am very disappointed because I was going to crush Maggie today.
Well, it will eventually be posted.
We are going to post it, so later in the day you could go vote. And I think it's not because she put Tim Horton, the guy, I guess, who's a hockey player who has the Canadian version of Dunkin' Donuts.
Correct.
But you got to put Vince Carter on there. I'm sorry, Richard Deitch went with Kyle Lowry. No, these are sports gods, not sports very good players. Vince Carter is the definition of a sports god. Half man, half amazing. That really bothered me. Bogues, you were defending Maggie's list. That was a mistake.
Well, I was defending Dave Steve. I would have left Alomar off to put on Vince Carter.
Okay. Tomorrow is St. Louis. This one is very, very difficult because, honestly, I wanted to go 4 from one sport.
Really?
Yeah, and I may have done that.
You didn't do 4 Cardinals.
Maybe I did. And not St. Louis football Cardinals. Peopleati, thanks so much for filling in today. Manny Rodriguez, Andrew Bogusch, Rami, the intern.